Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Fields Math Education Forum. So the topic today is first year college mathematics, the reality, the expectations, and what's ahead. So for those of you who know me, nice to see you. For the ones who don't know me, my name is Kei Zhang. I'm a math professor and also a math coordinator at Humboldt College. I have been teaching math at post-secondary levels for the past 15 years and have been involved with Fields math education.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Humber. And for those of you joining us virtually, welcome as well to the MathEd Forum, February 25th, 2023. Refers back to the colonial history of Canada and our land, and to pay respect to rightful owners of this land. And I'll read you today, we're located at Humber College in Etobicoke, and I'll read our land acknowledgement for this location. Humber College is located within the traditional and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, known as Mississauga language. The region has historically provided a unique interconnection between the Lake Simcoe, Georgian Bay regions. Now home to numerous nations, Etobicoke continues to provide a vital source of interconnection for all of us. Welcome, and for those of you joining us online, please do share in the chat with us where you're joining us this morning from.
Thank you, Mona. So is there any reports from any groups today? OAME, OMCA, OCMA, OCMC, CMESG, CMS, CME, and MKN, AFEMO, and anyone else? Yeah, Mona, go ahead.
There's just one group with the OCMC group that I'm part of, and recently this group started a conversation on numeracy, the definition of numeracy. A faculty from George Brown College has been leading this conversation, and the proposed definition for EES, essential employability skills related to numeracy for the colleges that offer programming. It is one of the criteria that the programs of instruction need to be mapped towards. That definition is 20 years old and ministry hasn't reviewed it. That information was presented to CCVPA, which is the Committee of Vice President Academics across Ontario, for consultation. And if they provide the approval for that, the ministry would possibly start the review process of looking at that definition. So that is the report from OCMC.
Thank you, Mona. Anyone else? Any other groups? Or you may sharing your updates through online chat. So is there anything you want to share? Teresa, anything online? No? Okay. All right, let's move on. So before we start, I'd like to start with a few ground rules. We are all here because we care. We're talking about transition for high school students to colleges, post-secondary education. We are passionate about the topic, so hopefully we can engage in respectful manner and a positive collegiate atmosphere will really help us to have the discussion and explore the best way to support our students. Now, for in-person participants, please turn off your phone ringer. For online participants, please leave your microphone on mute unless you are sharing. Thank you. So for today's schedule, we have 3 presentations in the morning. The presentations, first one is from Humber College, is talking about institutional support, institutional initiative to help our students. And the second presentation is from Frosina from Mohawk College, is when institution effort is lacking or is not there, what an individual teacher can do in their own classroom. So that's from a different perspective. And then the third presentation is talking about high school education, and that's our future students are. We will take a lunch break between 12 and 1, and after that, we will have an hour panel discussion, and the meeting will end at 2 p.m. This QR code, if you scan it, you can access the full agenda. You can see all the presentations, abstract, and the presenters' full bio. So just give you a minute if anyone want to use the QR code. And my colleague can also share the link to the agenda through online chat. Thank you. So the first presentation, Humber Math Head Start, is brought to you by Mona Bayani-Kivani and Amira Kami. They both are my colleagues. So Professor Mona Bayani-Kivani teaches at the math department at Humber College. She's an educator and an engineer by training. Mona strives to make her classroom relevant to our ever-changing world. She employs a variety of technology, such as video making, online teaching, and creating web-based resources, such as Math Head Start. Mona is eager to create a fun, safe, and supportive environment in her classrooms. Mona, welcome. Dr. Amira Kami is a math professor at Humber College. She has been teaching technical math and calculus courses at Humber for 12 years. Combining her passion for math, teaching, and helping students, she's always in search of better ways to help struggling students. She has worked on the creation of Math Head Start and is now focused on measuring and analyzing the effectiveness of this resource through students' feedback. Amira, welcome. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Humber online in here. As Kate said, my name is Mona Bayani-Kivani. I've been teaching at Humber since 2011. And Ermira, we'll give the mic to Ermira later on. So the start of what we do today is introducing mostly about Math Head Start. We'll go through some of the examples of the students to see what troubles them in the first year of math, but the focus would be what the Math Head Start will be. So we'll have resources available in Humber would be Math Center and the peer tutor. So offering them to students would be something that we always do. Math Head Start is something we just recently started to offering more often. And Amira is going to talk about more details of the history and everything else.
So for everyone, we know that all the colleges do offer a lot of support for first-year math students. The ones that Mona mentioned, Math Center, peer tutor, but something that we have recently employed here at Humber is the Math Head Start. We'll give you some information about the Math Head Start, how it developed through the years, and where it is today. How does it work? Who can use it? What are the benefits for students and instructors? And then we'll give you some data that we got from a short survey that we performed this semester. So we got some feedback from the students that use the Math Head Start, and we'll tell you what's next for this plateau. So we want to start with an icebreaker, and the first thing that we wanted to just kind of get a sense where everybody stands when it comes to the math topics. So what do you think are the most difficult math topics for the first year college students? And we want you to name 3 of them. So we are opening a poll here in menti.com. If you can go in menti.com and enter this code 45249042. So again, in menti.com, and the code is 45249042.
Online, they're having a little bit of audio connection here. Speak a little bit louder, please.
Okay, so again, we want your opinion in the most difficult math topics for the first year college students. And you can name up to 3. So it looks like basic algebra. Algebra is always an issue. Fractions is picking up. Okay, statistics, factoring. Yeah, that factoring is always a troublemaker. Word problems, nobody likes them unless we translate them to a math problem, to an equation. So we almost stay at the same, we are on the same boat. We have the same issues. Our students struggle with the same issues. Algebra, at least for the first semester students, is always a troublemaker. So let's move on to the next one. Should we wait more, or everybody? Okay. No, not yet there. So we are math teachers, and oh boy, we do have problems. So we have a problem for you. There are 2 questions here, but don't worry, we don't want you to solve that. So can you click? So what we want you to do is to think. For examples like this, what are the most common errors that you have seen your students do? And let's focus on the first one. So for the first example, we will ask your opinion and we will vote in a poll here in menti.com again. So if you can go on the next slide. We have some options. So the options that we have posted here are adding X, Y, and Z on the expression inside parentheses, or forgetting to apply the negative sign in front of parentheses, mixing the operations, and not applying the order of operations, the badness. So yeah, that negative sign always pops up. It always goes to only the first term and everything else ignores that minus sign. So let's wait maybe 1 more minute and see what everybody feels. And yes, the order of operations so many times, either that addition, subtraction, depending on the order they appear in the expression, or multiplication, division, again, not moving from left to right. Okay, so we can move on to the next one now. So again, we are on the same boat with these issues. Now Mona will go on detail through some students' examples.
All right. I'm glad someone said X and Y, Z mixed, because that was the first thing I've ever seen in the last few years I'm studying. I think, yeah. So I think it's just, at this example, it was, maybe it's after COVID effect, but I just, now the X and Y are all mixed. So in here, the Y, it disappeared and Z came here. And then it just decided that X has a preference and mixed up together. So the first example was a rare example. I don't see it that often, but the second example is something that I just It's happening, and I just wonder why this is happening. So the multiplication changes to subtraction. So I'm not sure if you have, so the understanding that yes, you expand the negative, but the negative, you expand it to something that is expandable, but it's not that changing that to subtraction. And I see that mix, a lot of not understanding what the term is. So what do we call the term and what we don't call the term? So how is the relationship? What is the operation between these things? So emphasizing of the operation is what I started to do again. And it's just, what is the action between this and that? And all those little things, little basics that we need. And I think it's just a lot of basics that are missed for this example. So you are right, when they know what they're doing, the negative will always creates the problem. But sometimes if they don't know what they're doing, these things are creating the problem as well. My most concern this year and some years is just not knowing what the operation is and what is the relationship between that coefficient and the variable. So we were joking with Amira about because I had a student with a whole test and filled with everything. It was filled, the paper was filled, but it had absolutely nothing. So we were saying,
Bad at math, but I'm giving you an A+ in confidence.
Just doing what I gotta do.
Get an
Extra
A+
credit.
and confident. I'm not sure if they get anything in math. But yeah, it's a well-written kind of a thing, but it doesn't make any sense. Another example of this, I know you guys love it. You probably see this, don't you? Yes. So everything you see, that X is so easy to get off. Why? I don't know. I call it my nightmare in my class. I call it whatever they want to imagine this is it. And I have that red line around it. Please don't. But I still see it. So I haven't figured that out, how I cannot see this. I try to call it like a difference between binomial, difference between monomial and all those things. But still a big part of simplification of fractional expressions. Maybe it's about the basic algebra again. I hardly very believe that the basic algebra has to be something that is, maybe we don't believe in rote, but some part of a basic algebra needs a rote experience or a rote practice. And then the other thing is that, again, mixing what is the action. So I like the idea of dividing this, at least the division worked. But then here, somehow we are subtracting. So it's always mixing of knowing what is happening there. And I think the clarity. So sometimes I think what is missing is the clarity of the things written there, rather than just they see a whole thing and they get more scared of what's happening there and they just randomly apply things. So I think the basic is really important, and I hope we are addressing that in the MathEd Start. So I'll give it back to Amir.
So that's why we offered the MathEd Start. We started initially, so the MathEd Start initially was just a prep for the placement math test here at Humber. And all we did was just send students a booklet with a bunch of examples with the acceptance letter. That's the only way they had to practice. So that was the only resource that we gave initially. Later on, we employed it as a supplementary material on Blackboard so that everybody can access, but again, only the Humber students after they were accepted and had an account on Blackboard. But after the pandemic hit, we moved to the online courses, and we employed this platform, the My Open Math, and later on Ideas, where students were able to use this MathEd Start. It was acceptable to students not only when they were registered and they were already Humber students, but even for students outside of Humber. And the myriad of examples and the variety of examples that students find in this source is endless, because they can try different numbers, different versions. And let me show you a little bit where we. So I'm going to show you where we advertise at Humber. So if you go at humber.ca, liberal arts and sciences, then you can go through the MathEd Start program. It tells you a little bit about the program, and thank you to Colleen. You have a video there that tells you exactly how to access it. If you are a Humber student or not, if you have an account or not, you can simply go in, create an account. So if you just click in one of them, you can choose, there are different versions of the MathEd Start there. So you can choose to use either, let's say, if you go in one of those, you can choose the program you are in and choose maybe a MathEd Start for technical programs. It's going to give you the course ID that you need to get in on ideas and the enrollment key. So all the information is posted on the Humber side at liberalarts@humber.ca. So as I mentioned two different things, ideas and my open math. Let me explain what they are. Ideas is just instruction delivery, environmental and assessment system, a platform that we use at Humber for these online courses. And my open math is another very similar platform. They are very, very similar. What they offer for instructors. Instructors can build their own courses, but there are so many courses available. So either you choose courses that are available on the side, or build your own course by picking modules and combining them. So you don't have to do too much work, just find the things that you need and put them in your own course. Examples. There is a huge library of examples. Again, you can choose the examples. They are randomized, and the variety is, again, endless. The grading scheme for instructors is so beautiful and so flexible. You can simply set up how you want your homework, assessment, quizzes. You just want to set up how you want to grade them, what percentage you want to give to each one, and everything is done automatically. And for any issues that you might have, there are online support forums that you can join, post a question, and they are very good at replying and giving you the answers. From the student's perspective, you can access this account if you are a Humber student or not. You can use your own plan. So you don't have to go through everything. You can choose the topics that you need more practice on. You can stay longer in one, shorter in the other one. You don't have the peer pressure of being in a classroom where somebody says, oh, no, you didn't do it right. You can try the same question more than once till you get it right. So you get immediate feedback for whatever you try. You can choose your own pace, time, place, where you do that. And of course, you can use the resources, open textbooks that are posted on that. What's the difference between the two? Just where they save the data. So the server for the My Open Math is a US server, but Ideas is Canadian based. So it's owned by Humber and all the data is saved there. So if we go, so just to give you a sense of what they are at Humber, for now we have 3 different versions of the MathEd Start. One for technical programs, one for the business programs. They are very similar, but they are tailored with applications from each field. And the other one, the MathEd Start for engineering degrees, it is a little bit of a higher level. It is not for first-year students, but it's like a prep for calculus courses. So it's a high level of algebra that will help students refresh their memory or prepare for the next level, the calculus, introduction to calculus courses. So for non-Humber Humber instructors, again, you can find on the liberal arts and sciences page how to get these courses. But of course, for anything, you can contact Colleen Ball at Humber College, and she can give you more information, or you can get in touch with us as well. For non-Humber College instructors, for the Humber MathEd Start for technical math, this is the course ID, and this is the enrollment key that you can use to copy that course. But again, for anything, just get in touch and we can check that. no, so Mona will open and tell us more about the logistics. So this is just the look. They look very similar. You can just click on the first one. Yeah. So that's how it looks on ideas. And again, she'll go on the details. And it's almost the same look in my open math. So now you can go.
All right, who can use MathEd Start is anyone really, but we offer it to students 1 month before signing up. This year, thanks to Forsina, we offer it with a bonus mark. We'll want to see what is the effect of that. We have a survey about that too. So we are hoping that gives them a boost about the reviewing and everything else. But if you are a student in any math related courses, I know even in nursing, people have more, they need more knowledge of a basic math again for that, or anything that is offered a little bit of a math. They can also use MathEd Start to review their math knowledge. Math professor can pick and choose what they want for the student to get review on. And then anyone who interested in practicing math in their free time, maybe we'll find someone, but as a hobby. But how is the logistic of MathEd Start? So MathEd Start would have someone would have a course introduction. This is what the MathEd Start is, how to enter, because the entry matters in the computer kind of environment. We'll have a skill quiz. I tell you what the skill quiz does, and we have self-contained modules. So if I go there, so this is the look. You will have, as a teacher, you will have access to the gradebook. As a student, you will have to access to your own gradebook. But if you are a student side, so you can switch between two sides. You'll see the introduction. And you see the modules. So we have, I'll talk about this, but we'll have, as a base of a MathEd Start, you will have 9 modules. What we offered later on as a bonus mark had only 6 modules, because we want them to not to get afraid of finishing that. So we want them to give them something that was approachable within the limit of time they had. But every module will contain sub-modules, which will go with the details of everything. And in every sub-modules, you have learning notes. So something that mostly is Humber created material. And then you have videos that are related to this topic. A lot of, it can be videos made by Math Center in Humber, or a Khan Academy, which has a very good sources of videos. And then we have practice questions. I think the key will be there. So in every sub-module, you will have a list of practice questions, and they can try that as much as they want. So anytime they finish one set, it gives you another variety of things, and it will just change the form of questions that is offered there. So when the whole set is finished in one module, at the end, you will have module quiz. So you assess your knowledge of the whole module by module quiz. So individual practices, and the end module will be there. And that's the whole format of MathEd Start. So how we can approach it, there are 2 ways to approach that. You can either just go with a skill quiz at the beginning, and then assess what the problem is for any individual. So when you do the skill quiz, when you are missing a question, it tells you refer to this module for practicing. So if you are missing that part, so if it's your problematic area, you know which module you need to work on. If you are giving it as a general review, you can always start with progressing from the first one to the last one, and then take the skill quiz at the end to realize if everything worked as well as you wanted to go. So you can assess your knowledge in each module, and you will assess your knowledge at the end with the skill quiz. So we can set it up that way. As I said, there are 9 modules offered in here. We thought about what will be the most needed for the first year math student, the one that really needs you to make you successful. And I think we all agree, numerical computation, the sign numbers, and then fractions for sure. We all talked about it at first. Percent is something that I'll give you some examples. So some word problems that really is applied in our life, and introduction to algebra should be that. I think we just choose the first 6 one for the this year's that we offered it to our students as a bonus. And it is what we think it's needed for our first year students.
So now we'll go over some students' examples and see how they can use the MathEd Start to address their issues. For example, if we look at this example 1 on the left, we notice that we have a fractional equation. Apparently, the student here knows how to find the LCD, even though they do not factor anything, but they know that x squared plus 3x is just x times x plus 3, even though they forget it here. But they combine very good. They simplified both sides, and at the end, they are stuck. They don't know what to do. Where do I go next? And of course, that minus is always so unnecessary. We just leave it on the way. We give it to the first one, the second one, you don't deserve it. So the student apparently does not understand exactly what does it mean to solve a fractional equation. They have learned bits and pieces somewhere, but they have to go through the whole process and solve the equations. Or for the second one, they are canceling out the fourth here. So the second one is much worse. What else? So of course, the minus here in front and so on. So apparently here we have to address this, and students have to go to the module that refers to solving fractional equations. So if we go in module 6, and I'm just gonna open it here for a sec. So if we go on the main page, and again, one of the beauties of this site, it's very simple, organized. So it's module based. If you go in algebra, introduction to algebra, you can find all the subsections here, or if you go in algebra, the one that I was trying to access, they can look at the section. So the sections are here one by one. They can look at the section that helps them solve equations. So they don't have to go through the whole thing. They just go in the module that they need to work on. And here they can see the learning notes. If you go on the notes, it's just a document with examples. It starts with the easiest ones. And as Mona mentioned, they are prepared by Humber instructors here. So they can start with easy examples, they have solutions, and then they introduce, let's say, the fractional equations, how they can eliminate the denominators and the fractions by using the LCD, and so on. And there are some examples at the end. So they go through the notes first, and the next item are the videos. As Mona mentioned, some videos are prepared by Math Tutoring Center. I'm just going to show you one. Of course, we don't have to go through this. So if you go through this, okay, don't have to spend time on that. So yeah, there is an advertisement from YouTube, and then the video comes. So the Math Center students has done a very good job preparing these videos, but the other ones are Khan Academy. They are optional. So if student needs more explanation, they can go through these videos. But again, as Mona mentioned, the practice quizzes are the best part of this. Why? And we are here in student mode, so I'm going to resume as a student here. And you can see questions appearing one by one. Of course, if you see here this 3 on the corner, students can try 3 times the same question, submit an answer. If it's not right, they can see right away that it's not correct. Try another one till they get it right. And of course, they can also ask for more versions of the same question. Let me go in the instructor mode, because you can see how it looks for the instructor. So for the instructor, if you go on a practice quiz, there is a teacher preview where you can see all the questions. You don't have to go one by one. At any question, you can see what the solution is. You don't have to solve it yourself and spend time on that. And for some questions, there are also video explanation provided as well. I'm going to try one, but I hope it's not. So right away, you go in a video that explains examples that are similar to that. And of course, they can get as many options as they want. So that's how they use a certain module. In this case, the module for solving fractional equations. And let's look at more examples.
Okay, so the next two examples are just some of the things we found problematic with our students. So we didn't go through, we had so many other ones, but we're just to stick with these three examples. So this one, I think, is just finding the slope and y-intercept. Maybe it's not important to find the problem with me here mostly was not about the whole concept was to isolating. So you need to isolate your variable properly if you want to solve any equations. Yes, you want to have it for that. Even if you are trying to create a line, I know with the table of value would be much easier. So here I just, the division goes to one piece and doesn't go to the other piece. I'll see that more often than this one. So this one was sometimes new to me. They were aware of isolating something, but it was isolating the X. So I see some, we see some rare kind of things this year as well. And I think COVID made that too. But then the most common one will be this, when you are isolating, but you're not isolating properly. So that can go through the piece of basic algebra again. And that can be offered in module 9 graphing. We have a whole piece of a graphing there. If you go there, we have all just talking about slope and y-intercept. I'll just take you to this one just to see the whole learning notes. But in general, we have practices. They can graph it there, and they can just keep going with the graphing if they want, or finding the y slope and y-intercept there. The next example is very dear to me. So I always tease my student about percent, because I love creating percent questions. And I think it's really important because you work with percent every time in your life. So everything you do in a real life, it kind of can work with the percent. So having information there, it doesn't necessarily means they are the information to be multiplied together. So finding the right information and applying that right information for that purpose, it should be something that we work on. So I'm a big in a basic algebra, but at the same time, the word problem that are very applied in our daily life is something that they really need to know. So one example, I have different examples of this. We have that, but in here, just as they see the numbers, they multiply it and they get something out of it. Checking your answer would be something that we keep emphasizing, but I think it's all about exposure, seeing the different things and understanding how it goes and making the logic work with that. I understand that the number they've got is more than the number is there, so they think they figured out the discount. I give them that much of a credit, but is that really, if you have that number and you get 30% discount, is that what you have at the beginning? So understanding word problems is something they really need in their life, and this is something that they carry as well. So module 4% talks about the variety of percent problems. It talks about markups and markdown. And I know recently in the curriculum, they want to talk about financial literacy more often, but this one is talking about markup and markdown, and also talks about when the base is not given. So this will be always the problem when the base is not given. How do you find the base? And same thing, it will have all the examples and series of examples that you can practice.
So now we'll tell you a little bit about the survey that we performed this semester. So we offered the MathEd Start for technical courses to first-year technical math college students. And we offered to about, I think, 500 students, 50% needed it. So 50% about 50% signed in. And about 50% of the ones that signed in completed the course with more than 60%. Now, the questions, we wanted to see how the students feel, what do they like, what they don't like, because we need that for the future to adjust this to their needs. So first we started with the topics that were offered in the MathEd Start. As we mentioned, there were 6 modules offered for this version this winter. And students heavily mentioned that they found more useful the topics for algebra, percent, intro to algebra, and numerical computation. So it gives us a sense where they stand and what they need. And when it comes to the resources on the MathEd Start, heavily they said, so almost 75%, they said practice questions are the ones that help them the most. And that's what we expected. That's why we have to kind of fill it as much as we can with practice questions. And when we asked them, did you agree or strongly agree that reviewing these math skills helped you? There was one student that didn't, but everybody else did. So I think that is helpful for them. And the navigation through the MathEd Start. So we try to make it as simple as possible. And in general, you can tell that the students think it's easy to navigate, but maybe we can improve it a little bit better. So there is still work to be done. But I think the structure of it in modules and with only 3 elements there, it's easier to go in. Would you suggest it to the other students? It looks like almost everybody thinks they should, some don't.
And just the last 2 ones, and we'll get back to that, is just to rate your feedback. So the feedback, rate your skills. So before it was 3.78. That's how they rated themselves. And then later it's 4.47. So you see a big movement going from starting your skills and getting to the end. So we found it as a good turnout for the first one that we practiced. So I'll just let Amir finish everything else.
So the last question was just some comments that they had about the MathEd Start, and the words that pop out the most are great, good, helpful, useful, very nice. What else? These are the ones I see. And some comments, you can tell here if you read the first 2, for example, especially for the students that have been outside of this kind of college sitting or haven't done school in a while, they find it a good warm-up, a good refreshing of their memory. So they come in with more confidence when it comes to the first level of the math course in college. So what's next? Of course, we want to improve as much as we can this. And the idea is to add more topics, to offer it to more courses, different fields. As Mona mentioned, maybe nursing, maybe hospitality. At least these are programs that we do have here at Humber. And the platform, so enhancing it just from our part of what's in there, but there are so many resources there. So we just have to use them wisely. And we want to kind of work more on the student feedback. So get more feedback from them and try to adjust the MathEd Start to their needs. And we want to leave you with this saying of Paul Almus: the only way to learn math is to do math. And that's what MathEd Start is. It's practice. That's how they gain the confidence. You said that? Very good. And I think we all say it in some way in our class the first time. Math, you have to try everything on your own and then ask questions. So you want to try on your own and ask questions? Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Colleen was telling very little, not that much, but we didn't advertise it that much either. Yes. So Colleen is taking care of the site mostly.
That we did have lots of students work through. That was all Humber students currently enrolled in first semester courses. But we do have it, of course, advertised on our website. Anyone can use it, but we don't know if they're Humber students or if they're not when they just join from our website.
Oh, I see, okay.
All right, thank you, Mona and Amira. Great talk, thank you. In the afternoon, we're gonna have panel discussion, so you will have more time to hear them talk and maybe ask questions. So our next speaker is Professor Frosina Stoyanovanska-Pokuka. She's from the math department at Mohawk College. In 2017, Frosina created the Mohawk Math Engineering Competition for high school students enrolled in college stream to help them realize the application side of mathematics among different engineering disciplines. Frosina uses various teaching methods and technology to increase students' engagement in authentic and purposeful learning of mathematical concepts that promote a deeper level of understanding. Welcome, Frosina.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a lovely introduction and a nice ambient here. I would like to start with something to see if it's gonna work. If I can think about something that I have in my mind when I come to this kind of events, this what comes to my mind. The key to student success is so simple, it's almost never mentioned. I'm afraid I will have to disappoint you. I have discovered, as my famous best friend will say, I have discovered a truly marvelous demonstration of this proposition, which this margin is too narrow to contain. However, I will try today, collaboratively, to talk about what can we bring into that demonstration. Maybe some ingredients that we can compare and collect, and we'll see what we can do at the end of the presentation. Disclaimer, the things that I'm gonna share today are usually coming as ideas from talking with other people, from reading, attending webinars, watching movies, anything that can spark our ideas. What can we do for benefit of our students? And I also hope that some of these today, this morning earlier with Mona, and we will have some kind of more things to add to the toolbox that you have. So 3 things that I want to share today. What can be done before students come into the semester? We have Head Start. Here we have Math Zone. Reforming the content and assessments, and also how can we deliver the courses. So all of this, in my view, is helping the underpreparedness in the course. And when we say underprepared students, I think everybody comes to a certain stage of underprepared. We can always go more and better to their full potential on any steps where they are on the staircase. About my students, I teach in engineering technology, and my students are first year computer science, software and networking. First semester, they're all combined. Second semester, they split. A little bit different needs, I find, among the 2 streams. And this is where they come from. So I pulled the data from my college, and this is only for my cohort in computer science, you can see that not many are coming directly from high school, only almost 15%. A little bit double than that are coming from not high school. And then we have almost 50% from the system, from AUKUS, but they are probably the international students. And then in each of these groups, I have smaller percentage, split percentage of who attended and who dropped, not who passed and who failed. And then because we have the technology that we can do everything better, I have created a little bit of a fancy drawing. It has some sound, but we can kind of ignore the sound. A little bit of different visual explanation of what my cohort comes in. A small percentage comes from the upper years, 2.2%. Some of them give up. The percentages are also in here, but I could not put them as percent sign, so only the last one is given as percent. But the high school students maybe are the smallest percentage who's giving up. Usually we have the biggest kind of giving up are coming from the non-direct high school students. And I find these different types of explaining things or presenting things will reach different types of students, which we all, have. And you can right away see how much difficult our job becomes. Another graph that I have prepared just to give us, because I had the data, I was wondering what is coming in the last years, what kind of waves I'm seeing. And I have all three groups combined, but I also have them in split. So there was something interesting here that happened, and I don't know if maybe somebody else would know. There was a little spark around 2011, 2012. Actually, 2011 was, we were going down, especially with the high schools. And then in 2012, something happened. There was a little bit of bump. And I don't know if at that time there was something that maybe the population was higher, so we had more students coming, or maybe there was something that we did and we brought some students in. I don't know, 2012, it may have been on somebody else's radar. But if they did something good, then maybe we can repeat it again. So that was interesting. And this is also same kind of pattern falls from Ontario overall, not just, this is just my cohort, my computer science students. Another thing that was interesting was 2020. When we went online, we had an increase in everybody. And from my students, what I've heard was nothing was going on. I cannot find a job. Let's go back to school. So that's why we had the 2020 bump. Going back to my students, you can see how much trouble I'm in. My students are coming from different areas. I have a student who is coming as a graduate PhD candidate from biomechanics at Brock. I have an auto mechanic second career coming to my first semester math. I have a fresh high school student just graduated. I have a degree in mathematics and international students, a wide range of students. And I'm only one in front of them. So when I look at them, not just what they bring as a background education, the knowledge that they bring, the attitude, we all know everybody has a different attitude towards math, the expectations from the college, from the academics. This is the first time structured things that they have to submit an assignment, it's due, no, you cannot bring it again. Preference for learning needs and wants, and I come in and I say, what's on your mind? They are all sharing that attitude. If all of these things are where they're different, where they unite themselves is they want me to see them, to appreciate them, to understand them. They need me. And then when I come in the class and I say, okay, now you're mine, I'm gonna teach you about something. And I say, I'm the center of your universe, you can understand me all, you're all with me, we're sharing the eyesight. No, I'm just lying to myself. If I think that's enough for me to come and they're in the classroom, I actually have to make much effort. Like I kind of say that I have obligation even. They came to class. I had a girl saying I have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to prepare the kids to arrive for your 9 o'clock class. So there is an obligation for me to deliver. 9 o'clock starts, I'm starting to teach. And how do I teach and what do I teach is very important. I cannot lose their time. So I usually have a survey. So there are so many things today that I want to address. And I really like to, touch on many things. In everything, I try to help them prepare for the math class, for the college. It's not just one thing that I can do and I can, everybody does that and everybody will be fine. There's so many things. So the first week survey that I sent is usually the highest survey there in response. They all want to tell me what they want. I asked them about how do you like to learn? I asked them what time management skills. This semester, this is fall data. This semester I was so blessed. Everybody knew how to do time management skills. I asked them how much they attend lectures, 95% and above. And I asked them how much time do you plan to do weekly per math? I do this a long time ago. Every semester is the same thing, approximately similar results. This graph is almost also similar. They have family obligations, they have part-time jobs, they have full-time jobs. And when they come to my class, they have so many things to worry as well. I had a student who was saying, I was reaching to them, they missed the final exam, and I'm saying, I want to reach what's happening and stuff. And he says, I'm homeless. I was in the house shelter the last couple of days, and I'm not sure if I'm safe. And our final exam is the least of their worry at that time. So many things that we kind of have to understand and also address. I asked them what are their expectations from me. Similar results all the time. The last one, this semester, was a little bit interesting. Being able to teach in a way that accommodates all students regardless of their learning styles, as well as how and the speed they absorb the content. All this plus making math fun, copy pasted from a student's comment. And I shared this with them. I shared the whole PowerPoint, we discussed it. They like to see, they're very alert. They like to see what their peers want to say. And then I say, these are my expectations from you. So we do have understanding from the very start what we expect from each other. I do say, I'll try to deliver. This last paragraph was a little bit hard for me to promise that I will deliver because I'll try, definitely, but I'm not sure if I will reach everybody. So here is where my math zone starts. I knew we have a trouble. My fall was the first semester after COVID that I'm going in person. My college doesn't have a head start. I cannot do anything for the whole college, but I have the power for my course. I use Mobius for assessments. Other courses have a different Vreta, Pearson. Most of them have excellent math zone or head start. They all have either the same thing or a little bit different, but we have the same goal. And a little bit kindness. So what I do, I usually send them an email. They first register middle of August, and I send them an email a couple of days after that to hit the first wave, talking about the textbook, calculator. The calculator is on sale at the end of August, also for Christmas time. They appreciate that. It's a recommended, if you have a different calculator, just send me an image. I need certain functions for both semester courses. I need to see if you can do that calculator, good. No need to buy. And then I say, introduce the math zone, and then they go in. I attack the admission requirements. That was very important for me. I'm not gonna ask you to do something before semester starts that I will teach you later on. So I'm doing the 4 modules that are kind of to the level where I have them as admission requirements. Nothing more, nothing harder. I do cover the same 4 modules, just speeding through them because I built on them in module 4 later on in the semester. And I give them 2% bonus because I said, okay, just telling them, hey, you need to know, you had to get in the zone may not be enough. So I say, you're gonna have 2% towards your assignments. I ask students, when is your highest grade in a math course? At the beginning of semester, before midterm, after midterm, before the final exam. When is your highest grade, theoretically? Beginning of the semester. Then it's the time when you have 100% or potential for 100%. After that, you're always chunking from that 100%. Now you're starting the semester with 102%. Isn't that lovely? 102%, you have a buffer zone. You can be skipping some things. The lessons in Mobius, so Mobius was pretty cool for me because I had so much in, and again, all platforms, almost all platforms have the potential. We just wanna, or kind of need to have that sifting through and see what we can get. The lessons are very fancy, way better than I could produce. And this is the table that I had fall and winter semester. How many attempted, how many scored over 80%, and how many scored 100%. The graph, that's the only graph that I could have done and didn't show me much. So I emailed my statistician friend and I asked her, how can I see if my math zone is doing something? And this is where she came in. So she says, okay, if I look at the graphs, or I think she says, if I look at the graph and I see the connection between the final grade and the math zone mark, only for students who started or completed math zone, not the ones who didn't attempt it for whatever reason. Not much can be seen, maybe positive relation, but I see two groups as well. There is one group that started, they still scored nice final grade, but they may have given up, or they may have been lazy, or they just started and forgot, they didn't have the time, and it was at the beginning of semester. It was open for the first 3 weeks as well, just to catch the students who registered late. But we are starting right away, quizzes, assignments, stuff like that. So we bombard them with assessments. They may have not came back to that math zone. Again, it was bonus, it doesn't have to be completed. And then the other group that is all about marks and goals. I start, I finish, I'll complete it. So that was the thing. And then another graph that she made for us was where she put all students who did a little or a lot, they are in the group 1. The ones who didn't complete math zone, they're in a group 0. I have 2 different sections, 7 and 8. The box plots are there. They're very similar to each other. And as Karen said, 50% of students who did math zone did better than 25% of students who didn't do math zone. So in a little bit of explanation of the graphs. Another thing, because I wanted to see maybe my math zone, like this is the thing, you do it and you're gonna cruise through the whole semester. This is the key. Can we make some kind of prediction like that? Not really. And she made, because the box plots are not normal, there is a test that we can do, and it does show there is a relationship between the math zone and the final grade. I actually even asked, what about test 1? Because I would say the final test is long there down the road in the semester. Maybe the test 1 was the best the most who took from the math zone. And I looked at that graph. The median of students who did math zone is higher than the median from students who didn't. But there was no relationship, actually. There was no, we cannot say that the math zone will predict good results on test 1. And for the final exam, because I have lots of things that contribute to the final grade, we have many things throughout the semester are coming. You do the assignments, you're getting better on the tests. You do the tests, you're getting better for the final exam. So many things are going into the final grade. unfortunately, I don't think that I can say that MathZone, and MathZone was only 2 emails. I emailed the couple of days after they registered. I emailed them again before semester started. And then I would remind them in the semester in the classes. But by then I have quizzes, I have assignments, many things are due. It may be a little bit too late. How do I change or adapt the content to help my students who are coming from different range of ability, wishes, emotions, and things like that? So this is the graph from the andragogy. And I was looking at this, and it kind of confirmed what we at the college are for. We always say we need practical examples, we need hands-on, we need to show why students need to learn. Like math is service department. I teach for computer science students. They need to know why I'm teaching certain things for them. And now they're even saying that this little wave is actually should be sliding a little bit earlier in their lives, because even in high school, students need to know where they're going. Why do I have to learn those fractions? They're very scary. Give me an example, give me the need, the goal. At this time, even I would add the social media is very important, because now it's not even what do I need, it's also what's cool. When I do an example and it's very nice, I'll say, isn't this Instagram worthy? Should you, take a picture and post it? Unfortunately, nobody listens on that, but I'm trying. So for the content, we can always say, I have the content, it's all nice and modularized. Wouldn't it be nice I made the syllabus in a 360 video where they can actually go around and answer some questions to make sure that they read the syllabus? But I think it's a little bit more than that. It's not just the content that I'm delivering, and they have to also be related to the content, to the career, to the program courses. At this time, it has to be cool. I have a board that says there is a 1 month calendar, but it's actually a 300-year calendar. And you align the month with the year. There is a little circle at the back, and you get the month. It is in my language, unfortunately. I'm kind of thinking like maybe I should make it in English and put it somewhere on the wall in the office. But this is where I bring the modular congruency. So the modular congruency comes, here is an idea, something cool. I don't know how to make it. I don't know even the reason why that little circle at the back works, but I know how I can find which day of the week a certain date is, February 25th. So we have the day of the month that we are in, we have the month, we have the C and the Y is the year, first 2 digits, second 2 digits, and there is a pattern for that. So we can talk about modular congruencies, but from a different part. I can also ask geometric progressions, right? And it's a very cool question. Is it true or false? And it sparks their mind, sparks that kind of a little bit of a wonder. Is this true? It cannot be true. 7 billion people in the world. Definitely it's not true. It is true. And we do the geometric progression. How many terms of the sequence we need to reach that 7 billion people? We have only a ratio of 2. Or the fraction 1/49, I'm still in geometric progressions. You divide this fraction, you get a lovely decimal number. Instead of giving a progression 2, 4, 8, 16, why don't I give them that? And then I bring, why is that 49 so special? Because we have common ratio 2, we have the exponent, so I'm gonna repeat on 2. Or I'm gonna repeat on 3, still ratio 2. I'll repeat on 2, but ratio 5. A little bit more, I find, goes a long way with this. And I have so many other, there was another sequence, because of the time, I'm a little bit conscious. There was one sequence, I'll share it later and maybe even put it in the chat or in the notes after the, my mind was in fog. How can math do something like this? Please, I'll have that later on. One thing is now that I have to skip it. And if I can go. No. It looks like it does. Okay, I'm good. I had to skip the sequence. It takes a little bit time, but few more things. What I can do with the content, with the assessments, to bridge that or to allow that difference of more students from different background, different level in their math to be successful in my course, to be engaged and also to achieve their potential. We have a grading system from 50 to 100. A student may choose a 50 in my class and be able to work night shift, or may actually be able to, do 80. I give them the choice. You do, I'm here, I can help you, but you do as much as you can. I'll bother you, I will always ask for more in any case. So I give participation in first semester. If you want to be challenged and you want to know where this is going from, why do I have to learn all of this? It's a first semester, it's a kindergarten. I cannot do big stuff, high school level in kindergarten. But if you want to be challenged, or for my, different, maybe half of the class or whatever, or even I say, try it, see where this is going. If you want to do that challenge, you can go and, oops, you can do that video tutorial. I call them video tutorials because they are videos from outside. There is only one video for mine. I teach Boolean algebra, and I bring modus ponens and modus tollens. Something that I don't know if any college math will actually cover. It's more even philosophical than math, but they need it in computer science. I find that Boolean algebra needs it. And they're a little bit more challenged. They're a little bit harder. And I say, if you don't want to be challenged, you don't have time to go into it, no problems. Here is another thing for you, math concept encounter. There was a concept that you didn't understand, but you finally understood it. Tell me how you did it. And that's where I think that I found something very useful for myself, because they told me how there was just a bunch of numbers and letters and X's and Y, and I missed the class, I couldn't see it, I couldn't hear it. I asked them to do a PowerPoint presentation, a video scribe even they did. They went, I gave them the opportunity to explain, and they did it. I asked some of them to share, if I can share some of them. There was one that was particularly interesting this fall, where they used my notes, the images are from my notes, but they told me where they were looking and how they couldn't understand what I was saying, or even in the videos I was saying, or what was written in the notes. But they put their mind in steps, and then later on they put everything, how they can actually achieve and solve a particular problem. That's what I actually learned most from their input. Why they see what, I don't know what they're seeing, but they told me. Very cool stuff. I started it during pandemic, and this is one of the things that I'm going to be continuing with. Learning strategies is another thing that students need in semester one. I asked them during week one, there was something interesting that happened this semester. I started in week one with a survey, but then in week 3, I give this video in assignment and ask them which learning strategies you would use or you think are important for you. So they gave me a list. I collected the list. And they told me the third one was take notes, week 3. They told me that second one is stay healthy. This is something that didn't come before. In the previous year, I did this before, but I didn't have the healthy was along down the list. I find students are fragile at this moment. I saw them, I hear them. I try to be there for them. The first one was manage your time. Remember how my semesters fall said that they are pretty good with time? Now they say, no, I may need some extra on that learning strategies. After week 5, after test 1, I do the same thing. The first one, again and again, is take notes. When they do the test, they see I need better notes to take, to learn, to study for. I have students who are going to the learning center, and one of the things that they ask is, help me prepare my notes. The tests, and again, I can talk about the tests and I can say about the review, how I make the review. I ask them to have, here is the 20, 30, 40 questions, rank the question, how much do you like this particular concept to be on the actual test? And I promise the top 10 will come, the concepts will happen on the test. I give them the power to contribute towards the test. I'm not giving the same question, but the same concept. They like that power. They do better and practice more when they know it matters to them and to me. I hear them. And also I have the fancy one where I say, 5 multiple choice answers, but then you have a penalty. So when you do the multiple choice, I'm not going to be true or false, meaning you're right, full marks, or you're wrong, 0 marks. I give them another attempt. This particular multiple choice actually gets a little bit longer, because if they are wrong, they have to go back, redo the same question, find where is the other potential answer. And it came from that little graph, because you can actually do it with this little board, not board, like a paper. You can actually, it's a scratch and you scratch and see where the actual star is. Pretty cool stuff as well. So I'm happy that I could do that online, and I'm going back to in person again with the same little cards. And another thing in second semester now that I'm doing at this beginning, because I teach math for computer students, we talk about the question, the solution, and then they will go back home and they'll create a program for it. And they'll share the program. So during the years, I collected lots of material. I have an app even on my phone a student did for our course with the same things, lowest common multiple, common denominator, missing digits and stuff like that. And I said, what if I ask you to give me student-generated questions? So here is where I come from. You can do word problems, and I connected them to the objectives, or you can code the questions that I have submitted to you. We're going to collect all of this. There are points, and it will be a supplemental grade towards your test 1. The test is 35%. It's a big chunk of the final grade. Here is where you can actually lower that weight from the test 1. It's kind of like another assignment group. The work that I provided examples, I want to have a word problem, a full solution, multiple choice answers. I'm needy. But what I want to do with all of this is I want to make a book. So I started a book this semester with these 2 sections, and I want to add their names as contributors. I will revise the questions. I may probably massage them to make them better explained or less explained, depending on their solution, but I want to make them famous. The press book also has, it's good because it has that ability for interactive questions where you can answer the question with feedback and stuff. And also I can add the codes in them. Unfortunately, the site doesn't run the codes, but at least I can write it down. So this is the beginning where I wanna, or where I'm going, but definitely something that it is on my mind. Summer is long, usually not long enough, but I'll get there. So that's that. Another thing that I try to do, and again, is this all addressing the underpreparedness? We do have to hit them on every side. Every student pays the same tuition. Every student deserves a little bit more from where they start. They came with something, I want to exit them with something more than what they came from. By engaging them in the material, by making it useful, interesting, wow factor in, we even sometimes they don't even see we make with them. So the math escape room is pretty nice and cool. I did it when we were online, where students actually didn't even come to the college. They couldn't come to the college. So when I made the math escape room, it was, they didn't have I gave them a little bit of insight with 360 videos where they can look around. The math questions are actually pretty hard, but they're all from the material. So this semester, I'm doing them I include them in the assignments as well, because I find that the math escape room, which was geared towards the final exam to prepare them, it is maybe too much work and too messy and too busy time of the year. So if I put one room in each assignment, it may be a little bit more beneficial to them. The math escape room came from Professor Paul McGrath from Waterloo. I found ThinkLink on a webinar at Seneca College. The 360 videos were taken from a teacher from building and construction science at my college. The power of collaboration. That's what makes us happy. And when we are happy, we invent more things, we do better things. When I collaborate with my colleagues, I bounce back ideas with them, or like my friend Karen helped with her forte. She's a famous statistician at our college. And I really think that that's where we can actually do best. I think that I did my best teaching these online years. But what I find is that I did the best because I was allowed to do. I didn't even know that I can do all these things. I was more in, kind of like a structural thing. But with COVID, we were all allowed to experiment and to bring more things in. Let's try this way or that way, or that's what I like. So that's about this. And then how do I deliver the content? Because of COVID, I had all my videos created in small bits and pieces. I recorded them again after class without students, make them small. They're not fancy, they're just me. They're unlisted, they're only for my students, but I put them beside each of the topic. So they are struggling with something. Here is a short video about that. My goal is to put all the videos inside the course notes with the QR codes, work in progress. I don't know what I was thinking, too many videos I made. And then the delivery. I came in fall, I had 2 big classes. One was 150 students, panic, big theater, and I'm yelling all the time. COVID still is with us. And I'm saying, okay, I will Zoom. I come to class, you cannot attend in person, no problems. I'm broadcasting it. I'm not sure how much I will follow the chat while I teach my in-person section, but the students appreciate it, so they actually helped each other in the chat. I didn't notice till the end of the semester 1, because at that time, the last week, I actually recorded the Zoom because students were kind of needed it, no problems. And when I re-watched the video, I was yelling because it was a good theater, big theater, and I was yelling a lot. So I did have to apologize. Nobody told me that I was yelling. Why? Like I do have to, they're coming class, no problems. They're coming online, no problems. They have the small video, no problem as well. So definitely something that we can give them as an option to choose from. I'm fine with that. The due dates are also, I always remind them the day before, friendly reminder that the assignment is due. I'm not closing them though. What's the point of me, like my objective of the course always says, learn the knowledge, but they don't say you have to show the knowledge in 1.5 hour test time, or you have to complete this by a certain date. So that's another thing that and interestingly, not many of them are late. I don't have many late assignments. It's very kind of like a confirmation to my put. So at the end, I said, I'm not gonna give the answer of the question, do one thing, and this is gonna be the key of success. But I think that we can do some ingredients together where I address the content, I address the delivery, I give them the power it's a freedom that they can choose. Sometimes they don't know what's best for them, so I have to be careful how much freedom I allow. I'm kindness, always the kindness. Let it simmer for a moment, and then to be baked by them. So that's where, again, my expectations and their expectations. So they have, this is a kind of like a catching up, making sense and figuring out a definition for intelligence. I'm saying brain power. When you come to the classroom, your brain has to be on. But when you go to the gym, you're not going to expect to have muscles if you sit and watch me lift the weights, right? So I come to that, tell them that, and I say, like, am I lifting the weights or you're lifting the weights? Who's going to get the muscles? So the brain power has to be on. They have to be engaged. Financial support at the end, as I mentioned, has to be there as well. So one thing about this is also, all of this is important. If you're missing one thing, you may not be succeeding. If you have more of one, less than the other, more of one will compensate for the less than the other. So we're still there, but they need them all. And that's all. Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Online participant, just to clarify, how big are your class sizes?
The class sizes, one class was 150, came to be 140 in the fall. I had them 94, now I'm having 112. I tend to have a bigger class sizes. I try to keep them all, I say like I'm a kite flyer. I keep them on kite ropes, and then one can wanna go higher, no problems, go higher. One is falling down, let me help you, but I may need support for that as well. I try to do the best that I can. When students see how much we work for them, they do appreciate it. That's another thing that I find. They're very respectful. They do appreciate knowledge first. It's very hard to get something that students can learn if the teacher doesn't know how to do it. But also coming to classes, attendance, I find it's most important. We have a conversation. I always say, yes, the videos are there, the notes are there, but the notes will read the same thing again. The videos, you stop, you rewatch, saying the same thing again. In class, you ask me and I'll say it in a different way. So it's important.
The workload and the number of teaching hours.
Because of the bigger size, I have a less number of classes. So I had 240 last semester as students, then 2 classes, 8 hours. They're blended, so 1 hour is online. So I kind of have 6 hours in person. I don't think that I have that much workload. I find that being with the right people around you works the best. No noise around. That's the best.
2 classes, 8 hours.
4 hours each. So 8 hours per week. This semester I have a little bit more because the class sizes are a little bit different, but I think it's still manageable.
All right, thank you, Frosina. We'll still hear Frosina speaking in the afternoon's panel discussion. So now it's our next presenter, Paul Alves. I'd like to introduce Paul Alves. He is a mathematical literacy resource teacher with the Pierre District School Board. He has also been department head at 4 different high schools in the school board. Paul is a past president for OAME, Ontario Association for Mathematics Education. He was past president on 2 separate occasions. Paul is also a frequent speaker at the various math conferences and events. Thank you, Paul.
And thank you. And it's great to see everybody here this morning. When the topic for this month's MathEd forum was proposed, the first thing I thought of is, who else can I ask to do this? Because as much as the first 2 presentations provided you a lot of clarity about what's happening on the college front, I hope you're not looking for clarity from my presentation, because there's a lot of more unknowns on my end of it. So I think we'll share that. I did ask some other people before they said no, and I said, okay, I guess I got to do this now. But this is actually something that's been kind of kicking around in my own mind as changes to the curriculum in the last couple of years. And how many people in the room are secondary folks? I know we've got a couple from York region. Secondary, okay, so we know that there's been some changes in secondary as well. And so a lot of this kind of reflects on the impact of those changes, and then thinking beyond secondary, okay, what happens to post-secondary, college, university, and so on. And so that's kind of where my focus has been. So anyways, so thinking about, what could I speak to? Let's see, is this going to move forward? Maybe not. Let's see. Oh. Multiple clicks. That's okay. Or maybe I'm not on the slide deck. Yeah, there we go. Thanks. It should be perfect. Thanks, Charles. So again, thanks again. I am currently a resource teacher, but I am returning to the classroom in the fall. I'll be at North Park Secondary School, and the fall. So a lot of the things that my colleagues have been experiencing, but I also, by way of reflection as well, we know what's happened the last couple of years, and I was hoping Francina would go a little longer too, because I don't have a lot to say. No, but the last couple of years, with obviously what we're coming out of, in terms of my role as a resource teacher, there wasn't a lot for me to do. It wasn't as if teachers could be released from their classrooms. Coverage has been a significant issue, especially for teachers in our board, trying to find people to cover when teachers are out of the classroom. So last school year, they redeployed me back to the classroom. And I thought, well, that's fine, because I'm not doing much at the board office. I might as well be useful somewhere. And so I went actually back to one of those 4 high schools I was a department head at. And I had an opportunity to teach grade 10 academic, grade 11 university, and grade 12 calculus. So, and it was really actually good in terms of giving me a sense of the impact that it's had on these cohorts as they're moving through high school. When I was at North Park, before I entered this role, it was the first year of the pandemic. And so in high schools, and many high schools responded differently to it, we were doing these quadmesters. And so students taking 2 courses at a time for 2.5 hours at a time. It was a significant challenge for students and teachers. And so from that's kind of informed our thinking and the impact it's had on students as we move forward. All right, and this sums up the presentation. Does anybody know where this is from? Okay, this is going back. I really enjoy music. This is Styx's, I think, their first album, Crystal Ball. And so you can kind of see where I'm going here. We are looking into the crystal ball to see what are the impacts of the recent changes, not only on the policy side, the curriculum side in high school, but also the impacts. And I think Francina was talking a little bit about the learning skills. And those are some of the things, like we know that there's been impacts on the skills in terms of the mathematics that students know. But also the other thing is those learning skills. And that was actually the thing that I was probably most concerned about after coming out of my redeployment in the high school, is reflecting on our not only is the math been impacted, but the readiness of these students to take on, say, a college level timetable, especially, well, I'll get into thinking about some of those, the different grades and how it impacted them. Let's take a closer look at the current pathways, all right? So this is what it looks like currently in high school. And so some of you may already know this. This is what it is. And so this is current as of 2 years ago. And you can see the biggest change right now is in what grade? Grade 9, right? Grade 9 no longer has those 2 courses up there. It is now a single course de-streamed, and that aligns with pretty well every other province in the country right now. We were the only province left that did not have a single course at the grade 9 level. Now, the one thing I like talking to a lot of my colleagues, and the grade 9 course has been challenging. Like that curriculum was released in 2021, June, pandemic, and hey, implemented in September. And and this was similar to my colleagues in grades 1 to 8. They had the curriculum released in 2020, and similar thing, June comes around, and I remember being on some calls with the ministry, and they said, when is coming? Spring. Don't worry, spring. It'll be out in the spring. June, it's the spring still. And so it comes out, and grade 1 to 8 has to be implemented in September. And there's been challenges. And even when the curriculum was released, especially in grade 9, if you actually want to see the PDF of the curriculum, does anybody know how many pages are in the current grade 9 curriculum? If you actually looked at the PDF of the curriculum, take a guess. How many? 200? You'd be on the low side. It's 250 pages in the current grade 9 curriculum. And that's with all the teacher supports, all the examples. And all of those things were missing when it first came out. So a lot of teachers are talking about, I'm not too sure what this expectation means. It's kind of vague, it's kind of fuzzy. And so we're finally starting to see what's in that curriculum. So that's kind of informed some of the impacts that we've seen on students as well. But a lot of the conversations I have with my colleagues is let's not mix up or confuse de-streaming with the MTH1W curriculum. Those are 2 different things, right? De-streaming as a concept and having a single course in grade 9 is one thing, but the MTH1W course is a different thing. Okay, so there's some good things and there's some challenges, but let's make sure we differentiate between those 2 things. And then in grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12, that is still the same thing. And does anybody remember what year that curriculum was released? So from 10 to 12, how long are we going back? From 2005. Okay, so that's almost 20 years now. We're getting close to 20 years that the current grade 10 to 12 curriculum is there. Now, this is the way it exists in provincial documents, but that's not the way it exists in all boards, though. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next slide. And you're going to see a change, and let's see if you can figure out what the difference is here. What's the difference? Anybody see it? Yes, grade 10 applied is missing. So in some boards, that course no longer exists. Does anybody have any idea which boards no longer offer grade 10 applied? Peel District School Board, my own board, 150,000 students, okay? That course no longer exists. Anybody else know another board that does not offer it? Go ahead, please. York Public. I know you're in York separate. Yeah. You're putting in the prayers. But yeah, well, maybe we should. Yeah, York Region is making that decision. Yeah, I think they're piloting it in a few schools. Anybody know another board? Toronto District School Board, over 200,000 students. No longer have the opportunity to take, well, no, they're not all in grade 10, but do you know another one? Yeah. Well, I'll talk about that. There's a reason. But I was getting lazy. I didn't want to make it off. But no, but Toronto District School Board, big one. Waterloo Region, so another board, and also Ottawa is not offering grade 10 applied anymore. All right, so think about that and the discussion we're having here. And I think there's implications, obviously, in a couple of things there. So maybe when we get to the question and answer, maybe you can tell me what you think the implications there are. So I'm really interested, actually. Again, this is like this is very fluid. And so I'm really interested right now, our students are picking courses for next year. So the first cohort of grade 9 streamed is in grade 10 right now in our board, grade 10 academic only, okay? I'm really curious to see what impact that has on student choice for next fall. Go ahead, please. Mhm. No. I just left this off here. Because in terms of student choices in grade 10, in our board, they only have grade 10 academic. Now to that question about like if you look beyond grade 10, grade 11, we still know there are 4 courses now, but again, I'm just wondering what will be the impact on student choice in grade 11. Because the ones that I didn't have on there, and you picked it up, grade 11 college, but I'm curious how many of my students will actually pick it. And I'm also curious, there's a 4th course that's not there. Does anybody know which one also doesn't appear in grade 11? The workplace, and that's an entirely different discussion. And maybe I'll just touch on that really briefly because I want to answer this question about calculus. So after university college in grade 11, we know that the students can take one of 2 courses coming out of UC, and that's either the grade 12 data or the MCT course right here. Okay, the math or college tech. And then coming out of U, they can take the data, they can take the advanced functions immediately, but you can only take the calculus once, fill in the, once you've completed advanced functions. Exactly. So that's why I didn't put it on there, because I only wanted to put the courses that you could immediately take after that course. But the calculus can only be reached once you've passed. And even then, like there are some schools that offer the advanced functions and some students who take it concurrently, but that's a real challenge. And not a lot of schools recommend that as well. All right, so that's the current look. Now I thought we'd take a little deeper dive because I think this is, thinking about, I was really informed by what the first 2 presentations about, where are you seeing student need? And where are you seeing that? And so I think it's really important to kind of say, well, what's in those courses? And so we're going to take a really quick whirlwind tour of the grade 11 and 12 strands. So really, really quickly. So quickly, there we go. Grade 11 college. Okay, that's it. Those are the 4. I didn't put all these specifics. These are the 4 strands. And so thinking about grade 10, this is the first time that students will actually see and be exposed to exponential relations. Okay, so that's in strand A. Strand B, this is kind of nice because strand B is personal finance. It's in the grade 9 curriculum now. It's actually in grade 1 through 9. That's a separate strand that flows all the way from 1 to 9, but it comes back in grade 11. They don't see it in grade 10, either applied or academic. The trig, it builds nicely on the grade 10, and the data management doesn't appear in grade 10, but it is in the grade 9. Data is a strand that it goes from 1 to 9 as well. 3M. So this is the university college mix, right? So notice only 3 strands. There's no personal finance. There's no data. There's quadratic functions, which is really good because it builds on the grade 10 nicely. Exponentials introduced. A little bit, actually, no, it's not there. And a little bit of the trig as well, which builds on the grade 10. Let's look at the 3U. Okay. What's the big difference between 3M, 3U? 1 extra strand, and that strand is discrete math. The discrete math of personal finance comes back as a part of the discrete math offering in strand C. And also a big difference is the 3U specifically focuses on the introduction of functions. The introduction of functions is in general, and that's in strand A, whereas in the 3M, strand A is specifically building on quadratic functions. Now, let's take a look at grade 12, the math course. This is the course that most students coming out of grade 11 college will have available to them. They take this course, the MAP course. It is awesomely aligned with grade 11 college. Like it's the same 4 strands. They just go in more depth. So it's the exact same 4 strands. So this was well aligned when we thought of grade 11 college to grade 12 college. But again, reflect on the needs that you have of your students. Some of those things the students are identifying as gaps in their learning. Okay. And then lastly, the MCT, the lost course of the high school curriculum. Have you ever offered it in New York? exactly. Yeah. The only, and remember, this course is only accessible from grade 11 mixed, right? That's the only way to get into this course. And again, think about this and think about the needs of your students in college. I was department head again at 4 different high schools. Only one high school was I at that offered it. And we only offered one section every year with low numbers, but it's a shame because it was such an important course. Whether you're going to college or, and I always used to recommend my students who were coming through that applied college pathway, who were thinking about getting into a university program, because this is the first time they actually see vectors in grade 12. They actually see vectors in the college. They don't see it in advanced functions. They see it in the college tech course before they get to calculus. And in all my time of teaching, I've only actually had one student who came through applied, ended up in calculus because they took this pathway, which is a shame. I think it was a real shame. I think it was a really strong course, really well designed, but just not accessible for most students. And also, the other challenge too is it adds in another course on top of everything else that kids have to take. It's an extra course on top of everything else. Sorry, Teresa, what were you gonna ask? Mm-hmm. I would say, I don't know the exact numbers, but I can say anecdotally from my discussions with a lot of school boards in my role with OEME and with OMCA, most boards are similar to that experience where the MCT does not run. It just does not run. The numbers aren't strong enough. Like you put it on your course calendar, but in terms of registrations, the students don't take it. And again, when you've got a school and they're timetabling, when you've got less than 10 students selecting a course, that's usually one that gets cut. The MAP course, though, I would say runs in almost, do you run in your St. Elizabeth's? Yeah. MAP runs in almost every high school I've been in, at least, with I'm saying an average size high school of about 1,000, you're at least going to get two sections of that course. Yeah. Yeah. And there's some other challenges here too, because finding someone to teach that course, that usually becomes someone's baby. Like once you find a teacher who can teach that grade 12 college course, it's not like they're worth their weight in gold, because it is not the course that everybody jumps to teach at when you're offering timetabling. So having someone that is invested in delivering that program is really important. All right, so that's kind of the overall vision of the pathways, okay? And again, depends on what board you're in. That's a look at the curriculum. And again, that curriculum is all 2005. If you want to think like, and as I mentioned with the curriculum revisions, the one very positive thing is it's the exact same pathways, grades 1 through 9. It's the exact same. There's 5 content pathways: number, algebra, data. Let's see how good I can be at memorizing this. Number, algebra, let's see, keep me, data, financial literacy, and I'm missing spatial sense, which becomes measurement and geometry in grade 9. So those are the 5. And again, you've got the grade 11 courses. The grade 10 is going to be a critical point in almost every high school now, is what's going to happen in grade 10. All right. All right. So what does that mean? What does all this mean in terms of what's going to happen? So when I was thinking about the impacts of these changes, so again, I think I've got more questions than answers, quite honestly, right now. Like I think mathematics wise and the content wise, I'm really curious about, as I mentioned, what will students be looking to take? What will they be looking to take? In my board, I'm really curious about the grade 11 numbers. What will be the enrollment across our board? Will we see a significant decline in students choosing the college pathway? I honestly don't know. So that's one thing I'm wondering. But at the same time, I don't think that necessarily means that we're going to see like a significant drop in students applying to colleges, though. Because I know a lot of the conversations that we have with students in grade 12 are, even if you're in the university level pathway, you should be looking at college level programs as a viable alternative and a viable option. for many of your pathway choices. The other thing too, and I'm reflecting back on how many people remember the college math project or its current iteration? How many people remember that? Yeah. And I remember one of the recommendations of that program was that the grade 12 apprenticeship course, the MAP course, was not doing the job that we needed it to do to prepare students for college level math. So I'm wondering if there's going to be this unintended consequence of these pathway changes where, yeah, you might see less students maybe taking 11 college, but you might still see more students taking 11 university mixed college, the mixed course. And my hope is that the course that they end, like the lost course in high school, might start to see a resurgence. That we might see, that's my fingers are crossed, that the MCT course might see a greater enrollment happen. That's a possibility. Again, crystal ball. And the other thing too is, even when we look back onto the recommendations of College Math Project, they said the MCT was a better predictor of success in first year college programs than the MAP, but also the MCF. Grade 11 course was a better indicator of success than the grade 12 MAP course. And so my hope is that if we have a larger number of students in that course pathway, that it will help with the college readiness of students in college as well. But the other thing I'll mention too is, and this is kind of getting at what Frazina was mentioning about those other skills. Again, maybe my own, I'm going to throw in a personal anecdote from last year. So again, teaching grade 10, which was the first cohort of grade 90 streamed, grade 11, and grade 12. Okay, so that semester that I was redeployed back to the classroom was the first time that students were back in a 4-course semester in my board. First time, 4-course semester. Kids in grade 10 knew no different. They had been in pandemic learning in high school throughout. Kids in grade 11 got a sprinkle of it in their first semester, and then they were shut down for the rest of their high school careers. Kids in grade 12 had a whole year of it and a half, and then it was shut down. So this is the first time they're coming back to 4 courses on their timetable. Some of the grade 12s are 3, but 4 courses on their timetable. And so that was probably the first thing I noticed was this shock to the system. Students were taking 4 courses. So that was hitting me right away, because I remember saying that to my grade 12s at North Park who were graduating and going to colleges and universities. And the first thing I said is, I'm not too concerned about the math, you know, I'm more concerned about how will you be able to handle a 5-course timetable or 4 or 5-course timetable in post-secondary studies. Like, I want you to be aware of that. We had a really frank discussion about being cognizant of what you're getting into here, that it is not going to be 2 courses at a time. And if you're finding this a challenge, okay, the pace and the demands, time management, I remember you had an arrow right beside time management. Those things are going to be, I think those are going to be the differentiators between success and struggle at post-secondary. Beyond that, so that was the first thing I was noticing. At the end of the semester, and I've talked to a lot of teachers about this, I'd be curious to know what some of my secondary colleagues feel. When I reassessed and looked at which cohort did I feel was most ready moving through things, the one that I was most concerned about were the grade 12s, which are in grade 12 right now, which you will be receiving next year. They were the ones that I was most concerned about. They, of all the cohorts that came up to me at the end of the semester and said, I'm really worried. And I had students come up to me, I'm really worried because the mark I got last year does not reflect what I know. All right. They were very honest. I got an 80, whatever, fill in the blank, but I really don't think I understand it as well as I do. And of all those cohorts, it was grade 11. The grade 12s again, I think, you know, they got a semester of 4 under their belt. And again, talking to them, you got to be ready. This is not going to be the same. But the grade 11s were the greatest concern. And I think my hope is that they'll be the last echo of what's coming out of the, well, I don't think it'll be, but they're the ones that are most at risk at this point. And so when we talk about not only kind of supporting them with the math, like what Humber College is doing with Head Start, what Frazina is doing in terms of making sure you kind of look at those other things that students need support with, my hope is that that this group kind of has that same support. But as we move through things, fingers crossed that the learning loss we've seen with students, and again, some school boards are doing a lot of things there too. Like I know in Peel, we have our own virtual tutoring. I know a lot of school boards were given a chunk of money to basically say, address this in some way, address what we're hearing from parents, learning loss. And so there's a lot of things happening that way. But my hope is that as the curriculum and people address that side of it, and as students start to kind of get back into the flow of things, because even this year, it's still been kind of getting back into the flow of things. We still don't feel like things are back to normal. And that maybe after a couple of years and in a couple of cohorts time, maybe that first cohort of D-Stream, that things will feel a little bit back to normal. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Grade 9 math that has changed. So it was because of the equity and okay. So now that everyone with every strength is in grade 9 math, what kind of extra help is provided to them? So because we know, because we have different levels, so you have to have outside of a help.
Yeah.
What is available to them?
I could speak to what, so the question is around what supports are available to students coming into grade 9. And again, the last year, whenever I'd run into a colleague in secondary, the number one topic on their mind was grade nine, this diverse set of learners in the room. And also you're dealing with learning loss and so on. And so there are some systemic programs, such as in Peel, we have a Counting on You program, which is usually running 2 days a week after school and providing some support for students. We run it for numeracy and literacy. Certain schools do their own kind of ad hoc math help sort of things. We do have the virtual tutoring that's available through there. So there are these programs that are coming up and supporting. Some of them have always been there. But some of them have been specifically put in place to address what you're doing, what you're talking about. But again, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And again, parents are driving this too. They're asking for it. So boards are being responsive to those requests. And the other thing I meant to say too is whenever I run into a colleague this year, especially in my board, grade 9 is still something, but the number one thing they'll say is grade 10, because again, we got rid of grade 10 applied and it's all academic. And so they're saying, I now have this diverse set of learners, but on top of it, I have 2 curricula that are 15 years apart. And that's like last year, the ministry put out an addendum to the grade 9 curriculum that basically said, hey, if you're teaching grade 10, don't forget the kids didn't learn blank, blank, blank. And so you better make sure that you're aware of this. And so the grade 10 has been a significant challenge because I always felt that even prior to the revisions, that jump from grade 9 to grade 10 was significant. But now it's like they're not even aligned in terms of you're going from 5 content strands down to 3 in grade 10. And that's a real challenge for some of the students and definitely some of the teachers. So there are some supports in place though.
Did I understand correctly? Grade 9 is 3.
Yeah.
But grade 10 is the old academic.
That's exactly right.
And we expect students to be okay with that. It reminds me on the fancy Sigmund Freud saying that education is one of the 3 things where failure is a result, and an unacceptable result. We know that is there, and we are fine with it. I'm not sure how fine I am with this result.
Yeah, you wouldn't be alone. The question was put to some of the folks, like I am on the Math Coordinators Association, AMCA, and the question was put to the ministry folks who they show up and, is there some plans to revise the grade 10 at the very minimum to align it? And not at this moment. So I think they do recognize like these 2 don't talk, but I can just tell you what they've told me. There's
like the ministry doesn't take away the applied stream.
No.
We are taking applied stream.
Well, only some boards, again, Toronto District, Peel, as well. And I think the feeling, and I can't speak to the motivation and the rationale behind these decisions, but I think there is this idea that, and this desire to ensure that students have like, and I think you said it, like when in your presentation around how early do these things have impacts? Oh, you got to push that wave back even further. Remember than that. And so we were asking students at the age of 14 or 15 to make decisions that were basically putting them in a lane that they had very little wiggle room to get out of. And so I think now the pendulum has swung right to the other extreme where we're saying, make sure you don't hem them in until much later. And so some boards have responded to that by taking away the applied. And then I haven't even mentioned the locally developed as well. Like in our board, Toronto District, that's not even offered anymore. So that workplace pathway wasn't on my pathway chart. And again, that might be something that is a casualty of some of the changes because some boards can't offer it anymore. I know in our board, we were told you can't. So it's been a challenge. It's been, we're still in this state of flux, right? And I think we're still kind of not settled if we ever will. Go ahead.
So when the two different streams were removed from grade 9 combined course, was the extra material in the former academic course removed? Or is it that everyone is now teaching the academic set?
No, I don't think that. So the question was, just for those of you online, was when the changes came around, was it basically you're now teaching the academic pathway in grade 9? I'm going to say no. It's just basically the way it was designed is we're going to look at the grade 8 curriculum, the current de-streamed grade, like the 2020 revision, and build from there rather than taking the old 9 and trying to create some sort of, cobble together some sort of course of expectations. It's basically building on the 5 content strands in grade 8 and seeing what's the next natural progression. I just did an activity with teachers this week where we actually do an alignment of the 7 to 9 curriculum. And you can clearly see visually from grade 7, you might see 4 expectations in some strand, go down to 3. By the time they get to grade 9, it's 1. So it's this distilling of content into grade 9. So students might learn, how to find perimeter and area of certain shapes. In grade 9, they might add on a few more shapes. In grade 8, add on a few more shapes. In grade 9, they're now using that knowledge to solve problems around measurement. Okay, so it's this distilling of content into grade 9. That's a good question. I haven't done that kind of cross-reference off the top of my head. There's like the old grade 9 curriculum had 4 strands, and they're still there in some sense. There's still algebra, there's still linear relations, there's still some data and modeling, and there's still some measurement and geometry. So I would say that most of it is still there. Yeah, I would say that it is. Yeah, there isn't too much, although again, the evidence, the ministry put out that addendum. So some things were removed, such as looking at the intersection of 2 lines. That wasn't played up as much. And so that is something that was the gap that the ministry addressed and said, hey, by the way, grade 10 teachers, you better be aware of this. Okay.
As data management, is that essentially a statistics course?
In grade 12, it is. Yeah, for sure. And the nice thing is, I do like that the data is there. And whenever data management was my favorite course to teach. I don't know how many people love data stats. Okay. Oh, not a lot. Okay, sorry. Data was my favorite course to teach, but I used to love telling my students, we're going back to grade 9. This is the first time they've encountered. I think that is a significant hole in our curriculum in the grade 10, 11. It just was this gap, and all of a sudden, but if you went into college, actually, you saw data again, which was awesome. But grade 9, they see this, and then grade 12, it comes back if you take the data management course. So yeah. Exactly. Probability, combinatorics, discrete, all that stuff, fun stuff. When kids come out of grade 11, I would always say to them, hey, by the way, the only thing you need from grade 11 is Pascal's triangle. Everything else was all that algebra, all that function analysis, all that. You don't need it for this course. The only thing you need is Pascal's triangle. So yeah. I think I'm keeping you from lunch. So why don't we, and I think we're going to do the Q&A, right, Teresa, in the afternoon, but why don't we make this last question? Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or not, but anecdotally, I was always been hearing stories of colleges not really even looking at the math course anymore and just going straight to like expecting 12U, even though it's not really a college, wasn't like a college prerequisite, but they're like, oh, because they don't really consider the Math 4C like it's good enough. So they just kind of, is that true?
So folks online, so the question there's this perception that the colleges were not valuing the MAP as much and they were looking more for other, so anyone in the college panel want to comment?
So with regards to that, we know the MAP course is not a strong course for college entry, but in terms of college admission, we don't screen students based on what courses they have because we ask for most, for example, diploma courses, we ask for completion or the diploma for them to get in. Some of the other more advanced courses, we now have engineering degrees, for example, at Humber College. With those, they specify we would need select mathematics courses like other programs, but for majority of diploma, advanced diploma certificate courses, there's no distinction what the college would consider as admission criteria to get in. But MAP course hasn't been a strong supporter or good course for even college entry. So it's not a very optimal option. I think the more advanced ones benefit the students more, perhaps.
Say one last thing as well, and again, thinking about impacts is the other thing too is assessment. I'm thinking of my current students last year. Last year was for some of them first time they wrote an exam. First time they wrote, and I know sometimes that's an expectation post-secondary. That was the first time they wrote an exam. And I remember my son's at McMaster and he's in third year. And it was the first, I remember just the chaos. It's like kids were frantic. It was the first, for my son, it was the first exam he sat in person since high school, since he graduated in grade 12. And so we are seeing that this year as well, where in our board, we've actually, the exams can count up to as much as and no more than 10% of their final mark, no more than. Now, that's not true of all boards. That's not true of all boards, but that's the way it is in our board. And they are only in grade 11 and 12. They don't have in grade 9 and 10. And you can definitely, and this is again, kind of, we have to almost reteach our students how to do these things. So like what you were talking about, Frazina, taking notes, all of those studenting skills are some of the things that we are now finding out we're needing to help our students through and help them adjust back to. All right.
Thank you, Paul. Seems we'll have some great discussions that we can continue after lunch break. So for the in-person participants, the lunch is on the other side of the room for online participants. So enjoy your lunch and we'll see you at 1 o'clock. All right. See ya.
Okay. No, this one. Okay, I need Paul here. Where is Paul? I need, who else? Ermira, Forcina. Okay. And we have a lovely panel of five candidates here for you.
Yes, it is. Oh.
Perfect. Can the folks online hear us? They're okay? Okay, thank you so much. We just changed some settings today for the afternoon. Perfect. First, I have Paul, who spoke to us in the morning about some of the de-streaming changes that have happened recently. Then we have Mona Bayani, Professor of Mathematics at Humber, with Ermira Kami, Professor of Mathematics. We have Frazina Stainovska-Pukoka from Mohawk College joining us, and we have Priscilla Bengo from Humber College and TDSP joining us for this afternoon. I'll do a brief introduction for Priscilla, as I've known her for many years now. Priscilla is a professor of mathematics statistics at Humber. She's also at TDSP for mathematics. She has a master's degree in statistics, economics, measurement and evaluation, and PhD in mathematics education from U of T. Priscilla also teaches a variety of different secondary level courses. So she brings the perspective of both college as well as a secondary school to us this afternoon. So without further ado, we're going to start with a series of questions that we prepared for the panel members. And for folks joining us online, please feel free to also add your questions and comments. We hope to find time to go through these for you. Okay, and we go to the next question now.
Oh, Mona, just one more note for everyone here. We turn down the microphone and the ceiling, so if you have questions, you'll be able to hear. Online people will be able to hear us. Also, if you make a lot of noise, they'll hear it as well.
Yes, we've changed the sensitivity to sound for this portion. So audience from joining us from virtually can hear as well. And with that, I'll pass it to Teresa to help you.
All right, so this first question is for our panel. New technologies are emerging over the past few years, such as ChatGPT and other tools that provide solutions to math problems. However, our teaching practices haven't changed for years. For the most part, the curriculum hasn't been changed in a significant way, and most post-secondary institutions are still using the paper test to evaluate their students. Should we consider shifting our assessments to focus on problem solving rather than questions that simply test algebraic computations and manipulations? If we make this shift, how will we also ensure that students have the necessary algebraic skills to solve these problems? Anybody want to address this first?
We can go to question 2 if you like.
Do you want to start just that question?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, take it.
Yes. No, I think both of them are very, for me, even the algebraic skills are important as much as the math skills and problem solving. So I don't think we can skip one to add to the other one. So for anything further in math, you need to have that base, a good base of algebra. So how we are testing them, so the paper exam is still here and we need to do the paper exam just to get the assessments done. But I don't think we can sacrifice one and go to the other one. In my opinion, yes, the problem solvings are great. For math, we need the basic as well, but I don't know.
I had just wanted to say something in relation to ChatGPT. Because it's one of the technologies. So it's again supporting what Mona has just said. There's an example in the Washington Post. It's a newspaper, but what it's saying is also something that professors in the universities in the US have been saying, and that's basically that it makes mistakes. So the article in the Washington Post was about a mother. Apparently earlier this month there was a strike, a teacher strike in the UK. And so the mother had to teach her twin mathematics. So she asked GPT to provide some linear equations to solve, which it did. But her child's answers and the ChatGPT's answers were very different. Okay, and when she Googled, it turned out that actually her daughter had the right answers. Okay, so I think that supporting Mona again, it's very important to teach them, if even only to see the mistakes that these technologies make. But most importantly, you know, there was a teacher who actually taught the students. So just imagine if we had skipped that and then, you know, she just gets answers from.
I tried my assignments in ChatGPT. I got 40%. Only. So for now, I'm kind of fine just because I think that math is not there yet. I try to use it as to help me, to support me. I try to mark my solutions, my student solutions. It did not mark properly, so we had a little bit of fight. It said at the end that because it's an AI, I cannot hurt their feelings. It's an interesting thing. It can talk in other languages. In my back home language, like it talks in a different dialect even. I mean, writes. I'm a little bit afraid because to say the same as my colleague here, because
who's checking the solutions? I fear if a student goes there for help, it will teach them something wrongly, and then I have a problem to reteach different, the proper way. Imagine, I'm kind of saying, like, imagine the calculator when it came, and then sometimes it gives you a wrong answer. Will that be beneficial for education? I'm a little bit afraid of it, how much can be used. For now, I don't think cheating in math will be there that much, but I did reworded a question of mine because word problems, you know, so many word problems, so much to say, and students are lost. And I'm saying that, but they can read a book and they can be immersed in a book. So let me have a word problem written in a Harry Potter style. It was wonderful. It was really like a jaw dropping. I don't know how we can best use it, but I'm here to explore more.
Wanted to add something that stood out from this question, which is one of the first reactions was around, you know, the poor quality of this technology in being able to solve, you know, algebraic step-by-step problems. And that's not where the strength is. There are other tools like photomath or other that have been doing that very effectively for us some time. And one thing that really stands out to me is when we talk about, should we use problem solving as a potential alternative to help reduce cheating? And I think what is actually different since, you know, December 2022, when this new tool ChatGPT was released, is the fact that it does tackle problem solving in ways that students would often not even know where to start. And maybe one of the challenges is, you know, these are large language models, they're generative models, which means there's going to be a lot of stuff that where students may have just given no answer. You may have an answer that looks pretty correct, and you want to give them some credit for that. But if you knew that it wasn't really coming from them, you wouldn't really give them that credit. So I think there's a question around, and this is a question that's being faced outside of mathematics for all the social sciences, where maybe there's things that are 90% correct from an analysis or problem solving standpoint, but in terms of the precision, or even is this really coming from the student, there's a disconnect there. So, you know, for a long time, we've talked about problem solving as a way to get more genuine responses, and it's not something students can easily look up. But we also have to be aware that this is exactly what is changing now, is that they are going to have tools that truly can help them or give them some support in terms of actual problem solving.
Any other comments on this interesting question? I was actually at a meeting yesterday as well, and it was heads of interdisciplinary studies for the province. And ChatGPT also came up at this meeting, and some of the deans, associate deans at the meeting were inclined to say, okay, the focus has to be academic integrity. Then one of the VP academics mentioned, no, instead of thinking about academic integrity, it's best we really focus on authentic assessment of students and making learning more meaningful. I think that approach goes much further than just a conversation around academic integrity when it comes to ChatGPT, and find meaningful ways to use these tools for teaching purposes, to augment what we can support the students with. Very interesting question.
I like that very much, but I also want to share that I like that very much, but support needs to be there.
Yes.
Because if we're changing, I'm all for problem solving, critical thinking, but support needs to be there for the teachers to be able to create all of these assessments and changing them every semester to semester, because the days are different. Every year is a new Justin Bieber or new happenings that we can actually move from. So we need that support as well.
Absolutely.
And one more thing, I think problem solving should be an extension to the basics. So they have to learn the basics, write everything. You cannot learn how to ride a bike just by looking at it online, how somebody else does. Or I think you mentioned, you gave an example before as well. So the basics, they have to try everything on their own. And then if we implement it through problem solving, I think that's better. But problem solving shouldn't be a priority in my opinion.
Thank you so much.
Well, I have a comment. So I think ChatGPT just one tool. As Charles said, there are other tools that are more effective. And again, we all know ChatGPT is going to learn. It's going to be more smart in next year. My main question is, as Paul mentioned earlier, our high school curriculum hasn't changed for almost 20 years. With all the technologies available to us, there's so much can be done. I think what is really essential for students to know?
That changes the whole question, absolutely. And any comments from the panel?
Can I comment? I don't know if I can comment or not.
Yes, you can.
It's just so intimidating.
Yeah, sure.
I struggle with this because I'm old enough to remember when we didn't allow calculators in the classroom, and now that we do, and I still would like to not allow calculators in the classroom. Like, we're talking about ChatGPT. I'd still like to go back to, can we not use a calculator? Because the calculator is available to them, they're not doing mental math. And I always have to explain to the students, the calculator is programmed in a certain way. Every calculator is programmed differently. If you don't understand that -2 squared is +4, and your calculator tells you it's -4, that's wrong. They don't get that. And that's the same thing with the ChatGPT. I get the whole, oh, let's use it as a tool, but if they're not fundamentally understanding why ChatGPT is wrong or why the calculator is wrong, because they're letting other things think for them. And the problem solving, they don't want to think. They want these tools to think for them. And I keep saying they're tools to use, not as an alternative to thinking. And I just find that that's the big problem with me. We can move forward to the problem solving. They don't want to think. They want these things to think for them. And that's what we need. I didn't want to go back to, no, you have to do the thinking. So at some point, you're the one who has to do the thinking for you. We cannot develop technology that completely thinks for us, or else who's the people inventing the next technology? Like, if we completely suspend our ability to think, we're never going to go anywhere.
I'd like to comment on this. Here comes my 2 cents. So I was a student that was very, very persistent. I have persistence. It's a blessing and a curse all in one. But as a student growing up in math and I had questions to work with, I would spend hours on problem solving one question. And some of the solutions, and especially the proofs and stuff, it took me forever. I would have welcomed the opportunity to have a device or a tool like this, even to give me. I'm one of those people that I want to understand it. And if I had a device like that, I wouldn't have spent 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out where my mistake was. Excuse me. So in some, as like other curriculums are doing right now with this chat GPT, they're giving students extra time. They're teaching them about the tools. Tools to help math students have always been there. They're just getting more sophisticated and better. But I do, I understand that you have to prepare students for, to think, but I was a thinker and I just was overthinking. And there was days where I'd get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, think, I think I got the solution, and I wasted so much time. So in defense of these programs, I'm a bit for it. And I agree, you do need to teach the kids how to use the tools.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's move to question 2 now. It reads, we have students with a wide range of mathematical ability levels in our classes. This difference becomes particularly pronounced when institutions do not offer placement testing and streaming of first semester math students. And this is a route that many institutions have gone in recent years, similar to the streaming conversations we had this morning. How can we engage students of all ability levels while ensuring that all students achieve the learning outcomes of our courses? Who wishes to lead with this one? This is a loaded question as well.
2 sentences.
Okay, 2 sentences.
So one size fits all for me doesn't work. We have to differentiate students based on the level as much as we can. We can't, of course, offer something for everyone, but if I have them in different paths, I think it's better for us and for them.
Oh, yeah, all of us in the college system, at least I think we have students, especially our international students, that they know the whole course. And then I have students that you saw the example. So it is a challenge for sure. And especially it takes you the first few weeks to figure out, like I'll walk around and I'll see them making very basic mistakes, but I have to have time to go out and sit with them, because I'll personally take them to the math center sometimes, but it's an extra time that you need, extra resources to come and help them. So the gap is so much that sometimes I prefer class assignments because I can walk around and see what they are doing rather than, yes, just outside the example. So one thing that I was going to add is that after COVID, we have our quizzes online and we have our tests in person. And the last semester, I had a quiz of 95 and a midterm of 0. So from 95 to 0, you can cheat on the quiz, but then if you don't get that, so you can use the skill tools wisely, but you can use the tools unwisely as well. But then for us to see them, I think it's just, I love being in person, and everyone knows that, because at least I can see who's struggling. But for addressing that, I think we need to have more time to hand or more resources, which are available, but just to give them the resources wherever they are available.
I just wanted to add, and Mona has kind of said it, the Math Center, for example, okay, it works for some students, okay? So, you can send students there. And then you could also differentiate in terms of problems. I find that in my college classes, students do ask for, or I give them extra problems for enrichment, the ones who see things faster. Okay, so they're in the learning management system. So that's another way to kind of move those students, along, okay, as you work with the others.
Sometimes for my students, I kind of am a hands-on teacher, and I ask, when you do the question, while you're doing the question, take a picture, email me. If I'm not driving, I'll answer it. And while they're there, I want to give that boost. And I usually say, why did you have 2 in a row, line 3? I'm helping them by asking a question. And then sometimes I joke and I say, you didn't notice, but that was a bot. It wasn't my email answering, because I would answer very, very quickly. I find students need help, support now, in the moment, on demand. If they have to schedule a meeting for next week, that's a little bit extra effort, and that may be a little bit different type of support that is also available. I need a constant, every week, scheduled, when I do the assignment, help. But if I can find a bot that can really help them with that, take a screenshot or image, email me out. Because if they have to wait for me next time that they see me in class, they forgot about the question. They don't really care about that question anymore. If I answer them tomorrow morning, they probably forgot what even they asked. So the on-demand help support needs to be there. I am a big promoter. I mentioned everybody pays the same tuition. I need to have extra support for everybody, wherever they are, wherever they want to be. I want to be there for them. How do we do that? A teacher, one cannot do it. It has to be on institutional level, attacking from all sides.
I'll speak to the engagement of students of all ability levels. It's interesting, as we've de-streamed grade 9, that's a significant conversation in grade 9 and now in grade 10 in my board. And it's interesting that my colleagues at the elementary level, that's been their lived reality forever. They have the diversity of learners all the time. And so the first thing I tell teachers is usually you can't teach grade 9 or any course, I would say, college included, like you're teaching maybe that academic group in that past. You cannot be teaching grade 9 academic if you're teaching grade 9 de-streamed. It's that simple. Okay, that was a homogeneous group of learners in your room. Now you've got this diverse set of learners, and so you've got to program to the edges. Okay, you've got to program to the edges. And I think of like, you know, a big thing in our board is universal design for learning. And I asked my friends and say, do you ever watch TV with a closed captioning on? It wasn't invented for you though, right? But it's an accommodation that's available to all, but it was not specific. And so it's the same sort of thing when we program in the class. Think of how you can address that diversity of learners in your group, in that room. And I bet you it benefits all the learners in the room, even if you're looking at the edge. And the other thing too is engaging students. Like I was at the back there with Alex playing that game. Like those are some of the things that I do in my classroom. Games, you know, like a lot of the work we do in my board is around low floor, high ceiling tasks, providing access to those students who need it and slowly ratcheting up the access for those students who can take it to that point. And so differentiation, what does that look like in the room? I think it has to look different from the moment when we took math. You know, we took math and we were successful in it, and it looked very different from maybe the way it should be for this wide range of learners in our room now. And the other thing I'll mention too is the key word for me and all that, and we've had discussions about this, is learning. I think sometimes in our rooms, students, that becomes the fuzzy word in the room because grades overtake the learning. They are now kind of just trying to chase a mark rather than focusing on the most important thing, I think, which should be the learning of those outcomes.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to question number 3. How do you identify the students who need these extra interventions? How long are these interventions, and how long do students have access to these interventions?
I think it's just for us, it should be the first 2 weeks, because after that it will be the load of the jobs and everything comes. How do I personally do just with giving them work and watch? We don't have that much access to, and then the survey works for SINA. So I have a very small survey that I ask them what level of math ability you have. So I always take that in the first semester as well. So that somehow, because I always put a bed math question there and I ask them to solve. So something that always gives me a lot of information. It's a very simple bed math question. And that always helps me to identify who needs it. And as Forsina said, they are very honest in the first survey. So they let you know that their math background is not that good. So I'll get that from this. And then the assignments, it's there in the first 2 weeks, because after that, they're going to be bombarded with everything. And what I've noticed this semester, as Paul was saying, because of COVID, they were lost in college. So they couldn't even find the right location. And I was telling my colleagues, so I told them I'm in LRC 3rd floor math center. And then I got an text from not an email from one of my students says, I am in a 3rd floor, but there is no math center. It was not the 3rd floor of LRC, it was somewhere 3rd floor. So the amount of being lost is just not finding the direction right to. And I think we're gonna just deal with them through the next few years until they get the sense of being out and being somewhere. How long, like I try to introduce them to the math center, peer tutor, whatever that is available. But I think they have to, after that point, they have to learn to find the resources and how it can be available. I tell them they can always email me, we can always meet virtually or something. But, and I found we just trying the other resources as a MathEd start as well to see if it's working, and we'll have more data there. But I think resources and how to be resourceful in the first few weeks of college, at least it's very important for them.
McMaster has a mentor program where the first incoming students will have a mentor from the upper year. They will get emails from them weekly. And sometimes I find students, they want to approach the teacher. Sometimes they want to approach the Math Learning Center. Different students, different needs. Sometimes they want to approach their peer student. One thing that I try to get from the very start with the students is that form a group.
The group will pick you up. You may be better in one thing, maybe not in the other thing. My students are computer students. They like to study individually, but they still, I say the education is social, form a group. There was a graffiti written in an elevator in my college long time ago where I didn't have the phones. Now everybody has the phone, so I don't, unfortunately, I don't have a picture of it. But it was written, "Cry now, graduate later." And I share that with students because I know there will be a moment, I say like a week maybe, where they will feel like cry now, but don't worry, you'll graduate later. So I'm there with them. I try to be, and we are like, I kind of say even that teacher should be an attribute. The teacher by itself, it's not a noun. When you say a teacher, you hear kindness, helpfulness. We by nature for the professional we are caring people. And I think that most, if not all of us are doing a pretty damn good job about that. And students see that and feel that. Oh, I was kind of.
Like the interventions I think of, I think the one thing that's, I don't know, maybe now it is hitting colleges is the role that parents play in this for us in terms of advocating for their students in terms of interventions. I neglected to say something when Mona asked the question about programs at the high school level. One thing that we are doing in Peel, and I know other boards are doing this as well, is identifying students coming out of grade 8. And so we have this thing called the Math Bridge program. And it's coming, we piloted it last year, it's running again this summer. Some high schools are putting it in place, but there's a lot of hesitancy around this. And so the Math Bridge program is for students who are coming out of grade 8 that have marks level 2 or below. And they are going into a summer program for 3 weeks and getting intensive math help and math support. And so last year, we're running it in 2 sites. And last year I was there and I was doing a little bit of coding with the kids and just getting them to have fun with math. Because a lot of it is they hate math. Like they walk into the math classroom and you're not only overcoming maybe that content gap knowledge, but you're also just overcoming just a visceral reaction to walking in those halls. And so they when they complete the Math Bridge program, they actually, and this is one of the places where our board bent, they get the locally developed math credit in grade 9 upon the condition that they must go into the grade 9D stream. So the only way that a school in our school board can offer this program is if it is twinned with the grade 9D stream. So we're very reluctant to put it out to schools because we don't want it to become de facto streaming again, where kids are being put into the locally developed program. And that's usually, that is a very kind of limiting pathway for students. So yeah, those interventions and how long, I think for us, and I'd be curious to know at the college level, how is it more driven by student advocacy? Whereas for us, we find that it's usually teacher, like Frazina saying, that caring individual, that teacher, and you got to get to know your students and say, you really need some support, or it's the parent advocacy. Whereas maybe in college, it is more, I've got to look after is that true? Or are you starting to see I'm hearing sometimes parents calling colleges and universities say, hey, so I'm wondering if what you're perceiving there.
I only had one student that his mom called me. So I never had a student whose mom and the mom was working here. But I think they don't enjoy that conversation with parents, even if I threaten them to call their mom. But we feel we need to support them. So I think the setting of college is because we have a smaller class, we still should be there to support the student. My son goes to university. I don't see any type of a support, individual support there. So I think the type of a student I have most of them, they are much better in a college setting because we are able to reach one by one, or at least to talk with them if they are in a classroom. So from us, I don't know, maybe we babysit them, but I'm just, I think and I teach a lot of first year student, I think it still needs a lot of support and just guidance to first year. Maybe second year and the calculus, they will be better, but the first year I found that they still need a lot of that, but no parental help here.
There is a follow-up question, I think, to Farzina's comment online from one of our participants. They like the idea of on-demand help, as you mentioned earlier, but it could be resource intensive if you have 1,200 engineering students, for example. Even with 4 instructors and 20 TAs, it will need some thought on how to implement it. What is your comment in terms of creating those types of on-demand supports for the students? Because we're noticing it, my program coordinators and I see that they email you, they want an answer right away. If it's 2 hours, 3 hours after, there is a follow-up sometimes with students in terms of their needs. So how do you support them that way?
So for now, again, I can say maybe, I have a big large classes, right? So I will say that I'm open. You have a question, email me. Lots of questions. So far, I was okay. I was fine. So with my promise that I will answer your emails, I was okay, able to support them. It does take toll on my life, but so far I hope I have a balance. But I was wondering if Discord may work. I know people at university, actually, courses have Piazza, and I've heard there's a good, I haven't tried it. I don't know that. Summer is coming, but I was wondering because my students are computer students and most of them are, if not all, are on Discord. I was wondering if I can maybe try something with Discord where I know that they can post a picture, and if I don't reply and my colleague can reply, some other student can. But I find that even with that, students are okay with sharing the image with me because I feel that I'm not threatening them and I'm saying, like, how can you do that? I never do that. I learn from their mistakes. I say, maybe I didn't mention this harsh enough in class. Sometimes I say I'm allergic to certain things like the canceling of X squared. I'm allergic to that. So don't kill the teacher, please. Or if I mark your papers, I'm not responsible how I mark the rest of the paper after seeing that. I try to joke with those kind of errors, trying to make sure that, it's work in progress for sure. But I find that the more we do, the more students we help, the more ideas we get, and the better we become.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that response. Moving on to question 4. If you could add, remove, modify something in the high school curriculum or pathway to improve student readiness for college, what would you do? And that goes back to, I guess, your magic ball, crystal ball.
Yeah. Right. Oh, I got that. Well, I was thinking you with the end in mind, what were the needs? Like for me right now, the pressure point is the grade 9 to 10 transition. That's what I'm hearing predominantly. So, and again, the conversations I'm having with teachers still around grade 9, and when they're not big fans of de-streaming, I try to say, let's just make sure do you mean de-streaming or do you mean the NTH1W curriculum? Because those are two different things. Like I was around for the first iteration of de-streaming way back. So I taught the de-streaming, and so that curriculum was different too, but it was de-streamed. So let's make sure we differentiate that. I think the pressure point for me right now is grade 10. And my concern is, although maybe it might turn out not to be so such a bad thing, is my concern is, especially in our board, with the grade 10 applied being removed as an option for students, that the college pathway will wither on the vine. But at the same time, I'm wondering, well, then does that push a lot more students back into the 11M MCT pathway? And maybe that actually might be a positive in the long run for students and what they need in college.
Okay, so I had wanted to say something that Paul already said, which was the lost course, that MCT4C, because it has the abstraction that is needed. Obviously, the MBF and the Math4C don't do it. But if you look at the research too, the real way to get ready for college is the grade 8. And I know we talk about grade 8 and then we can't really deal, the challenges are too big, but that's the way, because then that's the real restriction on what you can teach the student in class. Okay, so efforts should be in grade 8 so that they're ready for college.
I actually made a list. And unfortunately, I don't know enough from high school courses, so I couldn't say what to remove. But we're adding, and I don't think that I have material added, but I said connection with industry, more math competitions, different testing methods, variety, oral examinations. Like I do oral examination in my courses when I started with online for students who missed the test, and they had to do it afterwards because we didn't proctor them. So this was one thing that I can actually do. The oral examination went well, as far as I know. So as far as I know, no kid was hurt. But and I think that all of the oral examinations or makeup exams tests were all legitimate, and in my view, it all benefited to the student. So I try to be as approachable, because I know that students will be under stress and stuff. But unfortunately, I don't have a survey feedback anonymous to say what I have. But I do want to have that connection between college and high school teachers. If we can have more of those, that will be probably something that I can work on and be definitely help. 3 years ago, maybe 4 now, I went to math engineering workshops visiting to high schools, and I went in areas in my boards around Hamilton. It was eye-opening for me because there was some material that I didn't know students actually are lacking in first semester. There was, for example, simple one, trigonometry. I'm teaching, they do have trigonometry, but they don't have degree minute seconds. They only have decimal numbers as angles, and I'm approaching them from TMS. It was an eye-opening. I got connections. I would like to see more of those. And also with the industry, if we want to have college intake, I find that if students in high school or even earlier would know which industry needs their help, and I am maybe jumping a little bit the gun here, but I actually proposed one with my one of my deans, where the FAST is calling for your help. We have an industry company that needs your help with real life experience, and a high school student needs to solve it. More of those things I would like to see. Ministry maybe to help.
I want to add something to Priscilla, maybe works with your calculator point too. I remember when I was working with my son in grade 3 math, they teach them 4 different ways of adding, 5 different ways of multiplication. So I don't know, there is one way of adding, there is one way of multiplication. It shouldn't be that many, it only confuses them. I know they want to give them a different learning styles, but I think the base needs to be there, and then you just can give them a block of 10s. So block of 10s for at least me or a few of the friends that I work with them, it didn't work. So I think something has to change in elementary to moving forward to high school. So, and then the times table. I hate memorizing. I don't like memorizing, but times table should be memorized. And then after that, they can use any calculator they want to use, but the times table is just the sense that they get that in their head and everything else. So I think elementary, someone who enjoys the math, teach the math the way that the kids will learn it moving forward. And then in grade 8 for sure.
Just to Priscilla's point, and I think that's a really important one. I was meeting with a group of teachers this week, grade 7 to 10 family, and it's interesting talking to my elementary colleagues who you have the two models, core versus rotary. And the challenge that many teachers feel in the rotary model, where you are a master of all domains, or you try to be a master of all domains. And that's where you do see some teachers really struggling, especially if their background isn't in math. And so, but then you do kind of talk to some who I would rather just teach math. That's where my strength is, but I've got to teach social sciences and language arts and so on. I think that there's something there in the grade 7, 8 and that discussion. And like, so we try to have these discussions 7 to 10. And so like what Frazina said, having some partnerships with the colleges as well to kind of inform what happens in high school as well. So it's just that awareness of it as well is important. And then maybe the last thing I'll say again, like for grade 10, that's right now, it's for me is a big thing. But at the same time, if I could have a magic wand, I also think there's just too much in our curriculum. You know, that analogy of a mile wide, inch deep. Again, I kind of I went back and I checked the BC curriculum, which was also recently modified. Grade 1 to 9, I compared theirs to ours, grade 1 to 9. As I mentioned, the grade 9 curriculum is 250 pages long. The grade 1 to 8, put it all in a single document, over 600 pages. And the BC curriculum under 100, 1 to 9. And it's because it's built on big ideas that you explore, and kind of rather than having all of these, got to hit this, got to hit this, got to hit this, it is just these big ideas that are important to each developmental stage of learning.
Okay, this is from the online question. There are certain different changes that happen in education, such as technology and new curriculum. What I have observed in education is a way we deal with these changes is in fact the problem. The ideas of doing new things using the old ways, sort of new wine in old skin mentality, I guess. My question is, how do we get out of this mentality?
The only thing that comes to my mind is training. It's like if you bring a new machine, you need training, safety protocol or something. But we do have to be open-minded and do accept, because technology really can help. It cannot solve or cannot help bad teaching, but can definitely enhance. And students these days are really coming with technology users skills, not they're not really technology capable skills, but they use the technology. So we can kind of also support them there. But for me, when I look at where I come from, we have a new technology. We need a time to adapt it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. 2 more questions. Question 5. Do you feel that COVID has had a negative impact on students' math ability? Do you have any suggestions or strategies to narrow this gap? Who likes to answer this first?
Okay, so when we started, we all started kind of complaining, looking at the students, how many things they didn't know, and we thought it was COVID kind of affecting them. And in most of the cases it is. So we have students that either they panic, they haven't been in an exam kind of in-person setting at all. So all these are valid. I know everybody supports that. I'm gonna go on the other direction. During COVID, we also had the option to teach online and give them so many resources. They also have the recordings available, and for the students that want to work, for the students that ask for help, I think that helped them. We offer them so much. We can communicate with them all the time. It's not just in person during class. So it has its own benefits for some students, and for the ones that struggle, I think those are the ones that maybe COVID hit the most in terms of the math preparation, and those are the ones that should go for the in-person courses. So I've seen both sides.
I think Priscilla wanted to comment on that.
Yes, just to add to impact, I think the impact is there because math, unlike English, for example, many people rely on it being taught in the schools. Okay, many people and parents are not comfortable with it. Okay? So students who are, so that's a big thing that we can't ignore. Okay, that it did have an impact. And in terms of ways to address that, they would have to be personalized, because as people have just been saying, the impact's not the same for students. Tutoring, if tutoring is of high quality, it can have an effect. Okay, it can help the students fill in gaps, things that they just didn't learn.
I also find with the help and support things that we offer with bridge programs, or there was a study that I read, it's called Matthew effect, where with all these extra support programs, the better students benefit more than the lower end of the spectrum. So there was a study done, so they said, now let me explain why you need to know this. And they called it Robin Hood effect, because in that case, when the goal is there and I need a need, I can pull the bottom end of the spectrum as well. Going back again to that andragogy thing, I need to know why I'm studying this. It may, and also there was another thing where if parents support you and think math is important, those students do better, even though the parents didn't know anything about math. It's just that the knowing that this is expected, you should be better in math. I don't have those kind of cases mostly, or I don't know, maybe I do have, but I'm not that connected with the parents. Although sometimes I'll say your parents did well. Tell them that. Just to connect with I hope the student will go back to their parents and say, my math teacher said hi. But no, it's the support programs will be there, but we also need to bring that, why do I need to study that? And I said, like, even when we went online, I said, never more important was what I teach is important and how I assess is important. So hands-on college education, here I come.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to pipe in for 2 sentences myself. So I went from high school teaching to elementary STEM teacher in our board. And I can tell you with COVID, there has been a dramatic change in the kids' abilities at a very young age. But I can assure you that our boards and our schools are doing the best they can to support those students so that when they get to high school and hopefully to college and university, they'll be well prepared. But there is definitely a lacking, especially in the younger kids reading and math skills. We're going to move on to question number 6 for our panel. Do any of the panel members have insight from the students themselves? What do students say about their struggles with first-year math? Wow, this is hard. Anyway. I'm going to start from this very end.
Okay, so I have heard them say in the college classes that they've been out of it for a long time. Okay, so some of them may have been good students at that point, but they've forgotten it. Okay, so that's one of the things I hear in my classes.
Another anecdote that I have to share, 2000, here I come in Canada, math teacher, high school math teacher came here. Obviously, I don't speak English that well, and I didn't look at math for a long time. I forgot table multiplication. So if I had a teacher who had mental math, I was competing when I was in elementary math school. If I can forget the table multiplication because I didn't use it, what my students are doing, or regardless of how many months it elapsed. I don't have per se my personal that much student feedback, but I do have my student who worked for the as a peer tutor in Math Learning Center from Oka College, and she actually had a very lovely list what she observed and what she
heard from students. And I think that there is a list of the items at the end of the slides. I don't know if we can forward it, or maybe we can come back to the list of, just move and then ask Mariana to comment. She's on Zoom as well.
Okay, so
So
we
she
have
can-
a student on Zoom,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Perfect, that's great. Maybe you can introduce her to us.
so if I can introduce my student, Mariana, Silvia Mariana Rivera Cuyano. She was my math student for first year, both semesters, just before we hit COVID. And she was also working on Mobius assessments and slides. Mariana, I don't know if you can unmute and the microphone will not work for her.
We can get someone to turn it on.
Oh, it was very interesting when Mariana sent a very lovely long explanation of all the list in here. And I was thinking that maybe she can elaborate more of the list, but some of these things I'm saying, yes, I know them, but some of these are eye-opening. For example, like the visualization analogies, or at the end, like the way how students are expecting from us to have that different delivery or different presentation of the material, or that students are a little bit afraid of coming to the Math Center because they're looked upon, looked down. So that was interesting to hear and read.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Can she unmute? Mariana, can you unmute and see if we can hear you here?
I am unmuted, but I'm not sure
Maybe
if you
she
guys
can
can hear
put
me.
some information in
Or-
chat.
Okay.
And we'll read.
So I don't know if we cannot hear Mariana. Probably the online.
She says hi to everyone.
Thank you, Mariana.
Yeah, the people online can hear.
The people online will probably hear her, yes.
Okay.
I can try to keep
The
talking.
online people can hear
Can
her,
hear
we
her,
can't
but we
hear.
cannot hear.
We're gonna try.
Yeah, we could maybe unmute one laptop, turn the volume up and come in here.
Yeah.
So do
Okay.
you want me to?
I've got it here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
I'll try to keep on talking so that there's sound.
Okay, volume's on.
Mariana, can you try again to see if we can hear you?
Yeah, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay.
Excellent. No pressure.
Yeah, so Christina reached out and I was like, okay, I'll give my input on basically being a tutor at the Learning Support Center, Maha College, and also from just hearing from other students there. And I love how it's divided there into slides. So kind of from what I've heard directly from students is that sometimes they don't know how to start a problem by themselves and they aren't able to reach out to a teacher. So they get stuck and they can't complete the exercise, and then they face more complicated problems and tackling them becomes even harder because they weren't even able to tackle the first set of problems. So that's one of them. And then like also as mentioned there, like the class is moving too fast. So this would include both like just a single class or how fast the course moves from one topic to another. So for instance, I had a student mention that he was just writing down everything that the teacher said, but wasn't following what was happening because by the time they had understood something, the teacher had continued to something else. So it was really crazy for them. And then also I've seen there that they don't understand how to translate the examples viewed in class to the homework and what they're being there. And then also some of the patterns that I've observed is that kind of as mentioned, as has been like mentioned throughout the presentations, that students don't have certain prior mathematical understanding to tackle the topics that are viewed. So if they don't understand a concept that they needed, sometimes they can kind of fill it in or something, but they end up with a superficial understanding and with gaps of knowledge. So that's something that happens. And they try to find a time to fill these gaps, but it's hard for them to do that and at the same time deal with the class and at the same time deal with the rest of their lives and everything. So it's really hard for them. And to that point that they also face a lot of judgment and stigma. So it's not only are they facing the problems, the mathematical problems, which are very hard on their mental abilities, but they also need to kind of pass those mental hurdles of like, I can't do this, like, why do I have to even do this? Like my parents are like, I had a student that was commenting about that, like they would like punish them if they didn't do well. So they just decided to not do it because that was their solution for it. So it was that there's a lot of that stigma with math. And another kind of point to that, which was also kind of pre-mentioned throughout the presentations, which I thought was really great, is that some students really just need practice. They just go there and they just practice there alongside me, and that's great. That's all they needed, and that's super helpful for them. And for the points that I added then later on, it's just like how I help is that, sorry, did you say something?
I said thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, and just for the last points, I find that I always try to explain what is the underlying patterns or general rules, because they see a problem in class and they don't understand what is going on, what's really going on. So they just memorize, they try to memorize things here and there. And then that doesn't allow them to abstract what is going on to other problems. So like really explaining those rules and patterns really helps. And yeah, just at the end, adding like visualizations, analogies, and any other way you can explain a topic really goes a long way. Sometimes you see those moments like, oh, this just clicked for them. And it's just because you found a new way to explain that really they could really connect to. And yeah, these are just some of the points that I listed out based on my experience.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective as a student. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
so much. Lovely. Okay. And I don't know if we have much time. It's 1 minute to the end of our programming. We want to thank all the folks who participated, who spoke. We've had a really engaging morning and afternoon with you. Thank you so much. Thank you for such enriching conversations and great ideas that came out of today's session. Thank you all. Hope you have a lovely afternoon. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now. And special thanks to all the organizers.
Yeah, no, it's very convenient, very convenient. At the same time, I don't know what that is. But yeah, no, there's never been a concerted system kind of effort to try it's usually site-based, school by school, schools will try to do something, innovative with the timetable.
Oh, the PowerPoint.